Chapter 3499. Miss Means. Yang Kai looked at her suspiciously. I want to ask you to do me a favor, Miss Ice replied. Yang Kai smiled. Miss has saved my life. If there is anything I can help with, please don't hesitate to ask. Miss Ice said. Don't be in a hurry to agree. Listen to what I have to say first before you decide. Although this matter isn't that difficult to handle, if you really do it, then it's extremely likely that you'll anger Master. And it's even possible that she'll want to kill you. If that's the case, are you still willing? Yang Kai raised an eyebrow. Miss, can you elaborate? Although he was sure that Bai Liemo would not really kill him. After all, the realm gate in the demon territory needed to be repaired by him. No matter how angry she was, if she wanted to kill him, she would have to ask the other demon saint in the demon territory first. However, he had already offended Bai Liemo once. And if possible, Yang Kai did not want to worsen their relationship. After all, it was not a good thing to have a demon saint hate him. Inside the ice sculpture, Miss Ice was silent for a while, as if she was considering something. But in the end she said, I have an item that contains a forbidden technique I created myself. It is very powerful, and I want you to use it on my honored master. Yang Kai's pupil shrank when he heard this. You want to kill her? Yang Kai couldn't help but feel a little strange. From the words of this Bing girl before, it seemed she still respected Bai Liemo very much. Even if her beloved man was tortured to death, even if she was imprisoned on the 18th floor of the ice prison, she didn't show the slightest resentment. Even when Yang Kai had scolded Bai Liemo, she seemed a little unhappy, even speaking up to defend her. So she suddenly made such a request, it was really puzzling. Miss Ice laughed. Honored Master is a demon saint, how can I kill her? Not to mention that I don't have the ability to do so. Even if I did, it would be impossible. Then why did you? Yang Kai frowned, puzzled. The Ice Lady sighed faintly. This is just an explanation. Back then, when that person was humiliated to death by Master, I didn't beg for anything. Although I lost my rationality and attacked Master afterwards, it was already useless. Perhaps, if I had pleaded for mercy back then, Master might have let him go on account of our many years of relationship as master and disciple. For so many years, although I've been sealed in ice, between life and death, my heart has always been uneasy. Now that my time is almost up, I'm afraid it won't be long before I have to go to the netherworld to accompany him. This is my explanation to him. When we meet in the Yellow Springs, I can also tell him that I have avenged him, but my power is limited. Although Miss Bing's tone was calm, Yang Kai could feel her sorrow and grief. He also understood what she wanted to express. He couldn't help but be silent. Miss Bing continued, the 18th floor of the cold ice prison is a dangerous place. For so many years, no one has been able to come out alive. I thought that the forbidden technique would no longer be useful. But I didn't expect to meet you at the last moment. Don't you think this is the will of the heavens? Since the heavens want this, then I can also take this opportunity to fulfill a wish. Of course, you can rest assured that although this forbidden technique is not small, it won't be able to do anything to my honored master. After all, she is a demon saint, but she will definitely investigate this matter. You just need to tell her what I said today, and I think she won't make things too difficult for you. Yang Kai couldn't help but feel conflicted when he heard this. If this Miss Bing had asked him for something else, then it would be fine. But to use a powerful forbidden technique to deal with Bai Liemo, wasn't this a bit too much of a joke? Even if she said that Bai Liemo wouldn't make things difficult for him, who knew what that crazy woman's attitude would be? If he angered her, who would save him? But since he had already made the promise, if he refused now, it would seem like he was going back on his words. After pondering for a moment, Yang Kai said, I won't hide it from Miss. I am not a member of the demon race. I am a human, and have never cultivated any ice attribute secret arts. Since Miss Bing is a disciple of the Snow Devil race, then you must have cultivated ice attribute principles. Miss Bing said, it has nothing to do with you. You just need to activate it, and the forbidden technique will be activated. I also know that this request is somewhat difficult, but if you are not willing, then forget it. Yang Kai raised his hand and stopped her. Miss Bing is trapped and can't even protect herself. Since you are willing to save me, how can I refuse to help you with such a small matter? He had already thought about it. Since he couldn't refuse, he could only agree. In any case, he was just taking a risk in front of Bailey Mo. At worst, he could just drag Ru Meng away, and Bailey Mo wouldn't be able to do anything to him. Then I really have to thank you. This way, I can die in peace. Miss Bing thanked him happily. At the same time, inside the ice sculpture, a soft light suddenly bloomed from her chest. That light stretched out as if something was about to break out of her body. In the next moment, a light flashed and a hole appeared in the ice sculpture. A crystal-clear needle that was half a foot long and as thick as a bamboo stick appeared in front of Yang Kai. It was suspended in front of Yang Kai, under the support of a gentle force. Miss Bing's voice rang out. This Xianming needle is sealed with a forbidden technique of mine. I don't know how powerful it is because I created it after I was imprisoned here. I have never tested it before, but I'm sure it won't be weak. I can see that your relationship with Honored Master isn't very good, so you can keep this thing for the time being. If one day she attacks you, you can use this thing to block her. This was a pretty good proposal. Hearing this, Kai Yang's eyes lit up. This was tantamount to obtaining a trump card. Although it was a consumable item, the requirements for something free couldn't be too high. Opening his mouth, he asked, "How long can you block her?" "At most 10 breaths, maybe only 3 breaths." Miss Bing quickly replied. Yang Kai couldn't help feeling a little disappointed, but when he thought about Bailey Mo's demon saint cultivation, he couldn't ask for too much. Just as he was about to put away the dark profound needle, he remembered that Bailey Mo had placed a barrier on him that prevented him from opening his space ring. So he couldn't help asking awkwardly, "Where should I put it?" Miss Bing smiled and said, "I was negligent." After hesitating for a moment, she said, "How about this? I'll plant it in your hand. When the time comes, it will be more convenient for you to use, but I don't know if you trust me." Yang Kai casually stretched out his hand and said, "Please do as you wish, Miss Bing." It wasn't that he trusted others easily. Although he had a good impression of this Miss Bing and was grateful to her for helping him, it wasn't to the point where he could confide in her. The only reason he agreed so readily was because he was certain that even if she had ulterior motives, he wouldn't do anything to her. Bailey Mo had indeed placed a barrier on him and sealed his cultivation, but his soul was protected by the soul-warming lotus, making it impregnable. The foundation of his physical body hadn't disappeared either. So even if this Miss Bing really had ulterior motives towards him, she wouldn't be able to do anything to him after being sealed in ice for so many years. Miss Bing obviously hadn't expected Yang Kai to agree so readily and was startled for a moment before saying, "Bear with it a little. It may hurt a little." Yang Kai nodded, indicating that he wasn't afraid of pain. In the next moment, the dark profound needle floating in front of Kai Yang trembled slightly. With a flash of lightning, it pierced towards Kai Yang's wrist. Yang Kai felt pain and a cold aura dormant in his wrist, but it quickly disappeared. Yang Kai carefully felt it, and could clearly feel that there was a foreign object in his wrist, but it didn't have any effect on him, so he immediately relaxed. Looking down again, Yang Kai discovered that there wasn't even a wound on his wrist. He couldn't help but admire Miss Bing's methods. Although he couldn't clearly distinguish the strength of Miss Bing's energy fluctuations, he estimated that she was definitely a half-saint. Yang Kai casually waved his hand and asked, "Is this enough?" "It's enough," Miss Bing replied. "Now that my wish has been fulfilled, I'm afraid that we won't meet again in the future, so you must take care of yourself. Also," speaking up to here, Miss Bing suddenly stopped and a gentle force came from the ice sculpture, pushing Yang Kai several dozen feet away. At the same time, the protective force that had been shrouding Yang Kai's body disappeared in an instant, and the cold aura suddenly surged from all directions, causing Yang Kai to shiver uncontrollably. His hair and face were quickly covered in frost. This was too sudden, and Yang Kai didn't have time to react. When he came back to his senses, he was already several dozen feet away, and he couldn't help but shiver. But soon, he understood why Miss Bing's reaction was so violent, because a powerful aura was suddenly approaching from above. Even though his cultivation was sealed, Young Kai could still feel that it was Bailey Mo's aura. This girl actually ran down here by herself. Sure enough, after a while, a snow-white figure appeared behind the 18 layers of ice. Young Kai had already cooperated and hid in a corner, his entire body covered in frost, his face blue and his lips purple. Sweeping her beautiful eyes around, Bailey Mo saw Young Kai's figure, and the corners of her mouth rose slightly, revealing a playful smile. Swaying her waist, she slowly walked over to Young Kai and raised her jade foot to touch Young Kai's calf. Are you dead yet? Young Kai had curled up into a ball, but when he heard this question, he struggled to raise his head and squinted his eyes. Damn you, even if you die. I won't die. Bailey Mo sneered. You still have the strength to curse. It seems you're still far from death. Stay here and tell me when you're about to die. I'll come and collect your corpse. Saying so, she turned around and walked away completely heartless. But before she could leave, Kai Yang used all his remaining strength to grab her ankle. His expression was one of grief and indignation. He knew that this woman had deliberately come to see him make a fool of himself. Perhaps she also wanted him to bow his head to her and apologize. But the situation was stronger than the person, and the fist was not as big as the person. No matter how unhappy Kai Yang was, he still had to consider a way out. If he continued to be close to this crazy woman, he would only suffer. Chapter 3500. Bailey Mo turned around and looked down at him with a mocking smile. What are you doing? If you have something to say, why can't we talk nicely? Why must you use your hands and feet? She glanced at Young Kai's mischievous hand and said, Take your hand away or I'll break it. Young Kai quickly withdrew his hand. He had no choice but to do so. This woman may not really kill him, but torturing him was definitely something she would like to see. He didn't want to give her an opportunity to make things difficult for him. Trembling, he said, Don't go too far. A scholar can be killed but not humiliated. If you continue to humiliate me like this, do you believe that I won't die right in front of you? My tolerance is poor and I can't take any grievances. Bailey Mo giggled and slowly squatted in front of Young Kai. She stretched out her jade-like hand and lifted his chin with a finger. Smiling, she said, It's only been a while, and you're already acting like you're dying. Didn't you have a lot of fun scolding me a few days ago? Why aren't you continuing? Oh right, you also told me a very interesting story. Why don't you tell it to me? I'm also very interested in that story. Young Kai's face was filled with disgust as he tried to turn his head away, only to be pulled back by her and forced to look straight into her eyes. Her pair of beautiful eyes were filled with joy and happiness, but Young Kai didn't know why she was so happy. Gritting his teeth, he said, What do you want? Bailey Mo narrowed her eyes and said, Am I beautiful? Young Kai blinked a few times, unable to recover from his daze. This question had taken too many unexpected turns. Just as he was about to say you're as ugly as a pig, he heard Bailey Mo continue, You better tell the truth, otherwise humph. The meaning of the threat was self-evident. Her long and narrow eyes were overflowing with a cold light. Beautiful. So beautiful that it's bubbling, Kai Yang angrily said. Although this was the truth, his heart was still full of grievances. He secretly swore, Little slut, you better not fall into my hands. Otherwise one day I will definitely catch you and ask you 10,000 times if I am handsome or not. It's impossible to say that I'm not handsome. If you say that I'm handsome, then you have to give me a reason for being handsome. Then between me and you, Ru Meng, who is more beautiful? Bailey Mo asked again. Hey, don't push your luck. What do you mean by asking this kind of question? Are you trying to set me up? Young Kai glared at her. Answer me honestly first. As Bailey Mo spoke, her finger gently brushed Young Kai's lower lip. Even though his body was cold, Young Kai's throat was burning. He swallowed his saliva and said, You're both beautiful. Bailey Mo was obviously not satisfied with this kind of answer. Glaring at him, she said, Answer me properly. Don't try to fool me. Young Kai said dejectedly, What's the point of arguing with me? My relationship with Ru Meng is completely different from my relationship with you. In my heart, Ru Meng is the most beautiful woman in the world. Other women can't even compare to her. But from the point of view of other men, you and her are like spring orchids and autumn chrysanthemums. Each has their own merits. A woman's beauty cannot be compared. The only thing that can be compared is that men have different preferences. As the saying goes, carrots and vegetables to each their own. If you ask Brother Baya about this, he will definitely say that you are more beautiful. And I just don't know if he has the guts to answer. Cunning thing. Bailey Mo snorted. But from her tone and attitude, Yang Kai knew that although she was not very satisfied with this answer, she could still reluctantly accept it. After all, what he said was not wrong. Then, if I want you to abandon Yu Rumeng and give yourself to me, what will you do? Kill me. Yang Kai straightened his neck, his attitude firm. Bailey Mo angrily knocked his head, making a dong sound. You don't want to think about it? In any case, I am not much worse than Yu Rumeng. To be able to be valued by the saint, Yang Kai is very honored. It is really a blessing from my ancestors, but there is nothing to think about. Just kill me. Bailey Mo chuckled and said, well, I won't make things difficult for you. You can't be blamed for this. With that bitch's heart seal secret technique, I'm afraid you can't easily get rid of her influence on you. Speaking of which, did you know that she used the succubus demon clan's divine technique on you? Your feelings for her are the result of that secret technique, not your own feelings. On the first day Rumeng told me, but I think that even without that secret technique, it wouldn't have affected anything. Bailey Mo smiled lightly, declining to comment as she stood up and looked down at Yang Kai again. Boy, don't think too highly of yourself and think that Yu Rumeng really likes you. She is the same as this saint, one of the demon territory's 12 demon saint. Although you are not ordinary, it is difficult for you to enter my eyes. If not for your relationship with Yu Rumeng, this saint would be too lazy to tease you. Let me give you a piece of advice. When the day comes when you feel that you have lost your value to Yu Rumeng, you should leave as soon as possible and save your life. When Yang Kai heard this, he felt that there was a hidden meaning in her words and frowned. What does saint mean? Bailey Mo smiled contemptuously. Didn't Yu Rumeng tell you that once the heart seal secret technique is used, it is impossible to break it? Yang Kai nodded and said, she did say that. When Bailey Mo heard this, she laughed wildly, but when she looked at Yang Kai, her eyes were filled with pity, as if she sympathized with him. Yang Kai thoughtfully said, could it be that this secret technique can be broken? Bailey Mo stopped laughing and said lightly, an ordinary succubus demon wouldn't be able to break it, but she is a demon saint. If she is willing to pay a price, how could she not be able to break it? She can cut off the heart seal secret technique's restraint at any time. Or put it this way, as long as she is ruthless enough to kill you, the heart seal secret technique will break. Sadness only lasts for a moment, but it can be exchanged for a lifetime of freedom. If it were this saint, do you think you would still be alive if you lost your value? I will definitely take your life. A dignified demon saint entangled with a mere human. What kind of person would that be? Yang Kai's face paled when he heard this. He didn't know if Bailey Mo's words were true, or if she was deliberately trying to sow discord. But it was undeniable that Bailey Mo's words had successfully pierced a thorn in his heart. It wasn't that he valued his relationship with Yu Rumeng, but rather that he had already transferred the heart seal secret technique to the soul-warming lotus. So the heart seal secret technique's restraint on him was almost non-existent. But it was a great restraint on Yu Rumeng. Although after being entangled with each other for so long, he couldn't treat Yu Rumeng as a stranger. If Yu Rumeng really wanted to harm him, then he would absolutely not resign himself to death. What he needed to be wary of was whether Yu Rumeng would do as Bailey Mo said, and once the time was right, she would cut off the heart seal secret technique's restraint. If such a time really came, then he would have to make some preparations in advance. Otherwise, if a demon saint insisted on taking his life, he wouldn't be able to escape no matter what. His expression fluctuating, Yang Kai looked up and saw the smile on Bailey Mo's face, but he quickly said, nonsense. Bailey Mo sneered lightly. Whether I'm talking nonsense or not, don't you know in your heart? There's no need to deceive yourself. Yang Kai shook his head. No matter how alarmist you try to scare me, it's useless. Don't waste your time. The feelings between me and Rumeng are not something you can shake with just a few words. How could Bailey Mo not see through his lies? So she coldly said, "If that's the case, then I'll ask you a question. What is it? Do you want to kill her?" Yang Kai was stunned for a moment, not expecting this woman to ask such a question, so he couldn't help frowning. "What does this have to do with what you just said?" Bailey Mo smiled. "How is it not related?" Let me guess. Since you're a man, you must have thought about this before. She probably rejected you, but she didn't reject the intimate actions between you, right?" "That's right," Yi Zichen said. "So what?" Yang Kai looked at her coldly. It was indeed as she said. Although he and Yu Ru Meng had some intimate actions, there was no substantial breakthrough. First, Yang Kai was holding back. After all, they were different from each other, and he had an ulterior motive for coming to the demon territory with her. If he really did go that far, there would be some trouble in the future. Second, Yu Ru Meng didn't seem to have any thoughts in this regard. Bailey Mo smiled faintly. She didn't give it to you because she left a way out for herself. After all, if she really did lose her virginity to you, then there would be no turning back. Women are different from men. Even if she and I are devil saints, we are still women in our bones. How could we be willing to kill our own men? Yang Kai's face was gloomy, but he didn't say a word, his expression slightly sinister. Seeing this, Bailey Mo continued, "So if I were you, I would definitely find a chance to get rid of her as soon as possible. Only then will you be able to rest easy. Otherwise, you will definitely regret it when that day comes." Yang Kai's face became more and more sinister as he listened, his fists clenched tightly, as if he would explode at any time. Suddenly, he raised his head and stared at Bailey Mo. "Are you trying to scare me?" Bailey Mo looked at him indifferently. "Whether I'm trying to scare you or not, you will know in the future. When that time comes, don't regret not listening to my warning today. If that day really comes and you are lucky enough to escape, you can come to this senior. This senior will guarantee your safety." Yang Kai sneered in his heart. Don't be fooled by Bailey Mo's words now. If such a day really comes, she will absolutely not accept him. She does not get along well with Yu Ru Meng. But it's not to the extent that she would go to war with Yu Ru Meng for him. At most, she will use him and Yu Ru Meng to exchange for some benefits. A demon saint level powerhouse, how can her thoughts be so simple? Without a doubt, she has said too much today, so although Yang Kai is not sure what her purpose is, he is sure that she is definitely up to no good. She said that she is still a woman in her bones and can't bear to kill her man. But in front of the Tao, even her own flesh and blood can be cut off. So what is the point of love between a man and a woman? Yang Kai did not forget that they are from the demon race. Thinking this in his heart, Yang Kai still replied, "Then I thank the saint for her kindness, but I don't think that day will come. If Ru Meng really wants to kill me, this king will stretch out his neck and stab her." "Idiot." Bailey Mo looked at him with disdain. Chapter 3501. After an incense stick worth of time, Bailey Mo carried Yang Kai out of the ice prison and threw him directly to the ground. At the same time, the Emperor Qi that had been imprisoned in his body was finally released and began flowing freely. Yang Kai shuddered and silently circulated his secret art to force out the chill in his body. Looking at the light in the distance, he felt as if he could see the light of day again. Being locked in the ice prison for these past few days had been very boring. For the matter of the realm gate, go to the holy city and find Baiya. She will cooperate with you. After saying this, Bailey Mo floated away, not even bothering to look at Yang Kai. The stone demon guarding the ice prison walked over from the side and cupped his fists with a smile. "Brother Yang, this king was only following orders and had offended you. Please forgive me, Brother Yang." He had guarded the ice prison for so many years, but this was the first time he had seen someone walk out alive, and this person was actually brought out by the holy senior himself. Although because Yang Kai was locked in the 18th floor, no one dared to enter easily except for the holy senior, but this was still an extremely amazing thing. If the holy senior did not value this human so much, he would not have personally come here. So in the stone demon's opinion, this human was worth making friends with. Yang Kai glanced at him sideways, coldly snorted, flicked his sleeves, turned around and left, leaving the stone demon behind with an embarrassed expression, but immediately gnashed his teeth in hatred. Just a mere human, what is he so arrogant for? Yang Kai did not go directly to proud Snow Continent's holy city, but first went to find his subordinates. After the 10,000 people were brought here, they had been stationed outside the ice palace. Yang Kai had been thrown into the ice prison by Bai Liemo before, so he didn't know what had happened to them. Everyone else was fine, but Li Shiqing had to be safe. When he arrived, Yang Kai could not help but breathe a sigh of relief. The 10,000 people were still in their original state, as if they had not moved during these days, and not a single one was missing. Seeing Yang Kai appear, Tokuro-in, Baza, and the other demon king hurriedly came forward and asked with concern. A few days ago, when the proud snow ice guards were dispatched, they were really scared out of their wits. They all thought that Yang Kai had angered Bai Liemo in the ice palace, implicating them and causing them to lose their lives. However, they didn't expect that the proud snow ice guards would only besiege them for a few days before suddenly retreating. Just as those proud snow ice guards left, Yang Kai appeared. As soon as they met face to face, Yang Kai asked them a few simple questions and found out what had happened to them these days. Yang Kai guessed that Bai Liemo had mobilized the proud snow ice guards to prevent Yin and the others from leaking information to Yu Rumeng. Although Yu Rumeng could enter Xiao Wu's body in times of crisis, who knew what kind of trigger conditions would be required? Li Shiqing also cast a concerned look at him from behind. Yang Kai glanced at her and nodded slightly, then ordered Boya and Yin to go to the proud Snow Continent's holy city to find Baiya. The rest of the people were naturally on standby. Li Shiqing looked eager to follow, but Xiao Wu tugged at her sleeve and made her stay. The holy city was only 100 miles away, so it was easy to find. Boya had been here before, so she naturally would not get lost. After entering the holy city, he asked someone to inquire about the location of Baiya's residence. A moment later, a group of 3 appeared in Baiya's residence. The servants in the residence went to report, while Yang Kai sat in the living room, waiting for the arrival of the master. Not long after, Baiya hurried over and cupped his hands as soon as he saw him. "I've made Brother Yang wait for a long time." Yang Kai looked up at him and said in a slightly disgusted tone, "Brother Baiya, you're not very kind." He also understood some things later. When he was at Bai Liemo's place, he was affected by the drug. Fortunately, the soul-warming lotus dispelled the effect of the drug. Otherwise, he would have made a fool of himself. At that time, Baiya must have been affected as well, or else he would not have left in such a hurry. Combined with his behavior, Yang Kai was sure that Baiya definitely noticed it at that time. Even a half-saint could not resist the effect of the drug, which showed how strong the drug was. If he did not have the soul-warming lotus, he was afraid that he would still be lying on a woman's belly today. Baiya was startled when he heard this, then laughed and said, "Brother Yang, please forgive me. I was also a victim that day, and there was nothing I could do." He showed concern. "The Lord did not do anything to you, right? Why did I hear that you angered the Lord later? And as a result, you were thrown into the ice prison and locked up on the 18th floor. Brother Baiya, you are quite well informed in the holy city." Yang Kai snorted. Baiya twitched the corner of his mouth. "Brother Yang, are you blaming me for not speaking up for you? Brother Yang, please forgive me for this. The Lord has her reasons for doing things, and as her subordinate, it is not my place to say anything." He also felt that it was funny in his heart. "I have nothing to do with you, so why would I risk offending the Lord for you?" "Forget it." Yang Kai waved his hand. "I know that Brother Baiya is willing, but not capable enough, so I don't blame you. Fortunately, it was not dangerous." Baiya said, "How did Brother Yang anger the Lord?" "She actually let her throw you into the cold ice prison. That damn place is not a place that ordinary people can enter." Yang Kai looked at him with a smile. "Brother Baiya, if you want to know, you can ask the Lord directly. It is not convenient for me to say it here." Baiya laughed dryly. Of course, he did not have the courage to ask Yang Kai about the details. No matter what Yang Kai did, it must have been something that made her extremely angry, or else she would not have thrown him into the ice prison. If he went to ask her, wouldn't it be embarrassing the Lord? Then the next one to be sent to the ice prison would be him. Back to the topic. Yang Kai bent his finger and knocked on the table. I have been in the Ao Shui continent for quite some time. But I have been locked up by the Lord, and wasted a lot of time. Now that the Lord has released me, of course, she still wants to focus on the portal. The Lord is busy. So she asked me to find Brother Baya to understand the situation. Also, she wants Brother Baya to fully cooperate with me. If there is any hindrance, you will be killed without mercy. He added the last two sentences casually. After all, he was using a chicken feather as a token of authority. Even if Baya went to ask Bailey Mo, it would not matter. Baya heard him and said quickly, the Lord has also instructed before. So if Brother Yang needs anything, just tell me. I will do my best to cooperate. Yang Kai nodded and said, first, I need information on all the missing continents, missing portals, and unstable portals in the Lord's territory. Baya directly pushed a space ring over. I have already prepared these things. All the information is inside, Brother Yang. Please take a look. Yang Kai looked at him slightly surprised. He took the space ring and scanned it with his divine telekinesis. He found that there were many jade scrolls inside, which should contain information about the portals and the missing continents. After keeping the space ring, Yang Kai said, Brother Baya, please conscript 500,000 soldiers and have them be on standby. Baya could not help but look suspicious. Brother Yang, why do you need 500,000 soldiers? Yang Kai said casually, when I repair the portals, I need an absolutely quiet environment. I cannot be disturbed. When the time comes, I will naturally seal the portals from the outside. How can I not use some people? Baya nodded and said, I see, that's easy to handle. It was only 500,000 soldiers, so it could be easily gathered. After all, it was just sealing an area, so it did not require a high cultivation level. It only needed a few demon king to hold the fort. Yang Kai had also brought 10,000 soldiers, so it was definitely enough. Then Brother Baya, go ahead and prepare. I will study this information. We will start tomorrow at the earliest, and the day after tomorrow at the latest. Thank you for your trouble, Brother Yang. Baya's residence was vast, so there was naturally room for Yang Kai. She personally arranged the best guest room for Yang Kai, and had someone bring him in. Ming Yin and Boya guarded the door. Yang Kai went into the room, and took out the information Baya gave him, and the map of the demon territory that he bought. He carefully studied it. The night passed without a word. Baya did not give him much information, so it did not take much time to study it. However, Yang Kai had other plans in mind. If he wanted to put these plans into action, he would need to plan carefully, so he wasted some time. After a night of research, Yang Kai gained some understanding of the world gates in Bailey Mo's territory. In terms of the size of their territories and the number of continents they controlled, Yu Meng and Bailey Mo were almost on par. On Yu Meng's side, there were problems with the world gates of more than a dozen continents. Over the years, a total of 6 continents had disappeared. Yang Kai used the power of return to ruins to find 3, and had Rolling Stone swallow them, expanding the space of his sealed world bead, and even changing its world principles. The situation on Bailey Mo's side was similar. There were also problems with the world gates of more than a dozen continents. Even Proud Snow Continent was the same. The number of continents that had disappeared was even greater, a total of 8. 5 of these continents had a high chance of being entered. As for the remaining 3, Yang Kai would need to find some reason to do so. However, this was not what excited Yang Kai. What really excited him was that he could use one of these continents as a springboard to enter the Eternal Heaven continent. As long as he entered and explored it, he would know whether the Bright Moon Great Emperors had fallen there. However, this was not something that could be done overnight. No matter how anxious Yang Kai was, he still had to take it slow. At the very least, he had to numb the nerves of Bailey Mo and Baya first, and make them lower their guard. Only then would he have a chance to sneak into the Eternal Heaven continent. The next day, Yang Kai opened the door and led Boya and Yin directly to Baya, telling her that everything was ready, and they could start at any time. Baya naturally hoped that Yang Kai would be finished as soon as possible. The two sides hit it off, and immediately set off for the nearest world gate. The proud snow continent had a total of 8 world gates, leading to 8 different continents. Among them, 1 had disappeared and 2 had problems. At this rate, the proud snow continent would disappear from the map of the demon territory within a few thousand years. This was the place where Bailey Mo rose to prominence. It was also the ancestral land of the Snow Demon clan in the demon territory. It was very suitable for the Snow Demon clan to cultivate and grow, and they could not afford to lose it. This was also the reason why Bailey Mo personally went to find Yang Kai. The survival of ordinary continents was not worth her attention. Chapter 3502. The army of 500,000 that Boya had previously promised was also prepared overnight. Yang Kai did not hold back, and divided the 500,000 people into 5 groups, giving them specific targets to march to. 4 of the groups were tasked to block the 2 unstable world gates, while the last group was tasked to head to the world gate that had disappeared in advance to prepare. Baya looked on coldly, and had no intention of interfering. Since Bailey Mo had entrusted him with the gate, he naturally had to accompany them. Firstly, it was to monitor Yang Kai and prevent him from doing anything to the gate. Secondly, it was to guard against Yang Kai in case he had any other needs. He could satisfy them at any time. With a half-saint assisting him, it was naturally very convenient. However, if Yang Kai wanted to devour the continent that had disappeared from Bailey Mo's territory, or even enter the Eternal Heaven continent, he would have to find a chance to get rid of him. Opportunities were always waiting. Things had just begun, so Yang Kai was not in a hurry. Half a day later, everyone arrived at the first gate. This gate had shown signs of instability hundreds of years ago, and now the situation was more and more obvious. It was flickering, as if it could collapse at any time. The army of 100,000 had been scattered 100 miles away, and sealed off the area, not allowing anyone to enter without permission. Yang Kai arranged 10,000 of his troops in the inner circle to guard the area of 10 miles. Only then did he turn his head to look at Baya, who had been following him all this time. His meaning was obvious. He wanted Baya to leave temporarily. However, Yang Kai had obviously underestimated his thick skin. Baya had no intention of leaving at all. Instead, he chatted with Yang Kai about the customs of the proud snow continent. Yang Kai coldly snorted in his heart. He knew that he would not be able to drive him away. Even if he made things clear, he would have an excuse to stay. When the time came, he only needed to say that it was the Lord's order, and Yang Kai would be helpless. In any case, Yang Kai wasn't afraid that he would steal anything. He simply ignored him, and flew straight to the realm gate. His body shook, and the space laws surged. Baya had stopped chattering the moment Yang Kai made a move, her eyes fixed on him, as if she wanted to see through the mysteries behind his actions. When she felt the fluctuations of space force, a look of interest appeared on her face, and her divine sense surged silently as she tried to pry into the mysteries behind it. Although Yang Kai's back was facing Yang Kai, how could he not sense Yang Kai's subtle movements? He couldn't help sneering. If space principles were so easy to grasp, why would Bailey Mo want him? It was not the first time that he had to maintain an unstable portal. Yu Ru Meng had more than a dozen continents under her command, and had maintained at least 30 portals. This gave him a lot of experience and confidence. Although the situation of the portal here was more serious, if Yang Kai went all out, it would only take less than half a day to restore it to its original state. At the very least, there would not be any changes for the next 1,000 years. However, if everything was too easy, it wouldn't show his importance. Therefore, Yang Kai was happy to slack off. He looked like he was concentrating and going all out. But in fact he was thinking about the Eternal Heaven continent and the great emperors of the Bright Moon continent. After stopping and resting several times, the situation of the portal became better and better each time. Baya was finally sure that Yang Kai really had the ability to repair and maintain the portal. It wasn't until a few days later that the portal was completely stabilized that Yang Kai flew back with a tired face. He nodded at Baya and sat down cross-legged to meditate. Baya's spirit was shaken, and she hurried forward to check. Although he didn't know the law of space, He could still sense whether the portal was stable or not. He passed through the portal and went directly to another continent. 2 hours later, he flew back from another direction with a face full of joy. Halfway back, he had already sent a message to Bailey Mo, informing her of the situation. Bailey Mo seemed to be very happy and ordered him to fulfill all of Yang Kai's needs under conditions that permitted, and to let Yang Kai repair all of the portal as soon as possible. Because Yang Kai's ability had already spread to the ears of the other demon saint, many demon saints were naturally very interested in this matter. Several of them had already sent messages to Yu Meng, and were willing to pay a certain price to invite Yang Kai to their territory to take a look at the situation. Yu Meng naturally also sent a message to Bailey Mo, warning her not to mess around with Yang Kai, and to send Yang Kai back as soon as possible. A human, not long after coming to the demon territory, actually became a piece of delicious cake, and even many demon saints were attracted to him. It was really inconceivable to the extreme. Although Bailey Mo also wanted to keep Yang Kai in her territory for a long time, she also had to consider the feelings of the other demon saint. If she really did so, she was bound to become the public enemy of all the demon saint. This was also the reason why Yu Meng didn't stop Yang Kai from coming here, because she couldn't stop him. Otherwise, with her and Bailey Mo's grievances, how could she let Yang Kai come here so easily? After resting for half a day, the group set off again. As for the 100,000 soldiers who were on guard 100 miles away, Yang Kai had already sent them to the portal of another continent. In less than 5 days, the 2 unstable portals of the Proud Snow continent had been repaired, leaving only one portal that had disappeared. This portal took Yang Kai a little more time, and Baya also accompanied him throughout the whole process. Although she was mentally prepared, when she saw Yang Kai reappear in front of her eyes and stabilize the portal, she was still a little shocked. One had to know that this portal had disappeared for thousands of years. But even so, Yang Kai was still able to find traces of it and reopen it, showing how exquisite this human's attainments in the law of space were. Previously, she called Yang Kai Brother Yang because of Feng Limo's order, and now it seemed that this child's future was really limitless. She heard that there was also a guy in the astral boundary who was proficient in the law of space, and was known as the first person under the great emperors, relying on the mysterious space divine technique. If Yang Kai was lucky enough to grow to this extent, she might not be his opponent. Thinking of this, Baya's attitude towards Yang Kai also changed a little. In less than 10 days, the 3 portals of the Proud Snow continent had been repaired, and there was no need to repair them. Yang Kai led his 10,000 subordinates directly through a portal and entered another continent to continue his work. Days passed, and although there were tens of thousands of subordinates guarding around, Yang Kai's life was monotonous and boring. However, the process of repairing the portals was also helpful to his comprehension of the law of space. After all, the realm gate was a passageway between worlds. Although he could also set up a space array, the space array could only be used in the same world. In comparison, the space array was inferior. If he could completely understand the secrets of the realm gate, he might be able to break through the barriers between worlds in the future and take a big step forward in his attainments in the law of space. At that time, even Li Wuyi couldn't be compared to him. Because of this idea, the repair and maintenance of the portals was not a burden to Yang Kai, and he was happy to do it. He couldn't wait for the portals in the territory of the demon realm to have more problems, so that it would be more convenient for him to pry deeper into the mysteries of the portals. As time passed, Baya also lost the novelty at the beginning. When Yang Kai was repairing the portals, he could only watch from the side, and didn't even dare to make a sound, for fear of disturbing Yang Kai. Even though he was a half-saint, and his temperament was not bad, facing this kind of thing for a long time, he would also feel bored. From the beginning, he was monitoring the whole process, until now he just closed his eyes and rested not far away, and even occasionally meditated to cultivate. It was true that he was a half-saint, but it didn't mean that he didn't need to cultivate. In the territory of the demon realm, there was also a saying that the bottle of heaven and earth was the limit. 12 demon saint was the limit, and it was impossible for a 13th demon saint to be born. But now, the war between the two worlds was in full swing, and even the half-saint and fake emperors had gone into battle, and there was a risk of dying at any time. Who could guarantee that one day in the future, the demon saint and the great emperors would not fight each other? When that time came, there might be a demon saint or great emperors who would fall, and the vacated position would naturally be fought for by the half-saint and fake emperors. At this time, the more strength they accumulated, the more chances they would have in the future battle. Not to mention, there was still a great emperor trapped in the territory of the demon realm, and the demon saint hadn't done anything to him yet because they weren't fully prepared. Once the butcher's knife fell, it was bound to be another life and death battle. At that time, at least 2 digits of half-saint would be buried with him. Baya didn't want to be one of them, so he naturally had to be in peak condition at all times. Yongkai naturally saw the changes on his side, and he was in a good mood. He felt that he was not far away from getting rid of him. 20 days later, the group of people passed through a realm gate and entered another continent. After walking out of the portal, Baya frowned slightly, looked at Yongkai suspiciously and said, "Brother Yang, if I remember correctly, there is no problem with the portal of this continent. Why did you come here?" Yongkai said, "There is no problem now, but it doesn't mean that there won't be in the future. Maybe you guys haven't found out yet. Since the Lord entrusted me to handle the portal, I naturally have to be responsible to the end. It doesn't take much effort to come here and investigate. It's best if there is nothing wrong, but if there is, I can make up for it in advance." Although Baya felt strange, he didn't think there was anything wrong with it. He nodded and said, "Brother Yang is really responsible." Yongkai chuckled and said, "I was entrusted by others and I'm just doing my duty." As he spoke, he flew forward first, found a portal nearby, and carefully investigated it. And this investigation took 3 days. Baya was a little impatient from waiting, and thought that Yongkai really found something wrong. When Yongkai flew back, he hurriedly asked, "Did you find anything?" Yongkai shook his head and said, "No, this portal is in good condition." Baya was stunned. Everything was in good condition, but you checked it for 3 days? Although 3 days wasn't much, this was only one realm gate. If every realm gate was inspected like this, how much time would that waste? He just punched the void in front of him a few times, causing the power of the void to become even more chaotic. Then he turned around and left. It wouldn't take long for the traces here to be restored. At that time, no one would be able to find anything. He wasn't in a hurry to find Baya. Instead, he led his subordinates to continue to investigate the other realm gates. Since he was putting on a show, he naturally had to go all the way. Halfway through, he communicated with the embodiment and learned that he had gained a lot this time. Although he had found 3 missing continents in Yu Meng's territory before, he had only found some myriad demons pills the first time. The next 2 continents had even destroyed the nest of myriad demons, so naturally, he didn't find any myriad demons pills. This time, he had gained more than 1,000 myriad demons pills, including the ones from last time. It was almost enough for the embodiment to advance to a half-saint. However, even if he had the heaven-devouring Great Emperor battle technique, it would still take some time to refine these myriad demons pills. After all, the energy stored in the myriad demons pills was really incredible. A few days later, the last realm gate was investigated. A group of people rushed toward Baya, ready to meet up with her and enter the next continent. Baya suddenly flew to Yongkai's side and turned to look at him. Yongkai glanced at her and frowned. "What are you doing?" Baya stammered for a while, but in the end, her curiosity won out. "Can you find those missing continents?" Yongkai narrowed his eyes. "What do you mean?" Baya rolled her eyes and said flirtatiously, "I mean what I said. Don't pretend. The place you first went had a realm gate that connected to a continent, but that continent disappeared thousands of years ago. If you didn't find it, why would you waste so much time there?" Yongkai said indifferently, "I'm just doing some research to see if I can find traces of that continent. I did the same in Saint Dreamlike's territory. What's wrong with that?" Baya didn't know whether he was telling the truth or not. She was just a little suspicious. She frowned and said, "But I clearly saw you take something out of the void. Don't forget, I'm a feather demon." As she spoke, she even poked her eyes to show that she had good eyesight as a feather demon. What others couldn't see didn't mean that she couldn't see. "You saw wrong." Yongkai looked at her coldly. Boya curled her lips. "You're quite careful. Don't worry, since I'm telling you this, it means that I won't tell anyone. Otherwise I could have secretly told that Baya. I'm just a little curious." "Curiosity kills." Yongkai snorted. Boya said angrily, I know. You're so annoying. Why can't we have a proper chat? Why are you acting so weird? My soul puppet is still in your hands, so how can I not want something good from you? I just want to remind you to be careful in the future." Yongkai didn't say anything. Although he wasn't sure what she saw, she definitely found something. A feather demon's eyesight was indeed incomparable to ordinary people. However, with the soul puppet in his hands, Yongkai wasn't afraid that she would do anything to harm him. Otherwise, if he was in trouble, she would definitely be in trouble too. Tukuro, Baza, and the other high-ranked demon king, who stayed behind in the Blue Plains continent, were the same. These three were even more miserable than Boya. Yongkai had planted his divine soul brand on them. He could truly decide their life and death with a single thought. After meeting up with Bayer again, they entered the next continent through the realm gate. He found that with this experience, the rest of his journey was much more convenient. Only when the realm gates were being repaired and maintained would Baya watch from the side. However, when he went to investigate the realm gates that were still in good condition, Baya was too lazy to follow him. This naturally made it easier for Yongkai to act stealthily. After Boya's reminder last time, Yongkai also became much more cautious. He directly ordered his 10,000 subordinates to stay 30 kilometers away from the realm gate, while only Tukuro, Baza, and Boya stayed within 10 kilometers of the realm gate. Even sound was excluded from the equation. This time, Tukuro and Baza also felt that something was wrong. Although they didn't quite understand what Yongkai was doing, it was obviously not something good. Helpless, they were planted with the divine soul brand by Yongkai. So even if they were suspicious in their hearts, they didn't dare to ask. Like this, Yongkai found 3 missing continents in Bailey Mo's territory. The area of the small sealed world expanded again, and myriad demon pills were harvested again. The continents swallowed by the small sealed world reformed into a new world inside the small sealed world, leaving behind obvious characteristics of the demon territory and the world principles of the demon territory. Yongkai estimated that even if he threw in some demon race, they would still be able to survive inside. 2 months later on another continent, in a wilderness, 10,000 subordinates were scattered 30 kilometers away. There were only 4 figures here: Yongkai, Boya, Tukuro, Baza, and the others. A strong wind blew, causing his clothes to flutter. Yongkai's expression was extremely solemn, and even Boya and the others were a little nervous. Their experiences a few days ago had made them all speculate, and they knew that now was the time to lay all their cards on the table. Among the 3 of them, only Boya knew a little more because she had seen more. Although Tukuro and Baza knew that Yongkai was definitely hiding something, they didn't know what it was. Today, Yongkai suddenly left the 3 of them here alone. Obviously, he was up to something, and if things went wrong, they might get into trouble. Yongkai's gaze swept across the 3 people in front of him, and finally fixed on Boya. The 3 of you are this king's most trusted people, and you are bound together for good or ill. That's why this king left you here. If something happens to this king, the 3 of you won't be able to escape death. But if I'm safe, you can naturally sit back and relax. Hearing him speak so seriously, the 3 of them couldn't help but feel a little uneasy. Tukuro braced himself and cupped his fists. If there's anything your majesty needs, please tell us. We will do our best. Baza also echoed. Please give us your orders, your majesty. Boya didn't say a word, and her face was filled with reluctance. Ever since she discovered a little bit of Yongkai's secret, she knew that following him was never a good thing, and now it seemed that she was right. For a moment, she regretted it so much that her intestines turned green. She thought that she could borrow Yongkai's power to protect herself, but who knew that she would end up in a trap? Yang Kai smiled slightly. It's not a dangerous matter, so don't think too much about it. This king only needs you to stay here. Immediately, he quietly transmitted a few words to the three of them. Hearing this, the three of them looked at each other, but they didn't ask any questions and obediently obeyed. Tokuro's body trembled, and as his blood chi surged, the world was dyed red. In the blink of an eye, the place where everyone was shrouded in a blood mist. This blood mist had the effect of isolating divine sense, so unless one's cultivation was stronger than Tokuro's, it would be absolutely impossible to find any clues. Chapter 3504. At the same time, Yang Kai had already used the divine technique of space. With a few flashes, he had quietly arrived 500 kilometers away. Although the lives of Boya and Tukurabeza were in his hands, and there was no risk of their secrets being leaked, he still had to be on guard. He didn't plan to let these three know that he was going to the Eternal Heaven continent. Leaving them there was just a ruse. After preparing for so long, the results were about to be revealed. Yang Kai couldn't help but feel somewhat nervous. He didn't know whether the great emperors of Bright Moon were in the Eternal Heaven continent. According to the information he had obtained, the great emperors of Bright Moon were very likely to have fallen in the Eternal Heaven continent. After all, 3 of the realm gates of a continent couldn't suddenly disappear for no reason, unless something major had happened on the continent. The battle between the great emperors and the demon saint was enough to change the situation of a continent. In less than an hour, Yang Kai had already arrived on a plateau. Along the way, he carefully avoided the native demon race of this continent. After arriving here, he used his divine sense to sense with all his might. There was originally a realm gate here that was connected to the Eternal Heaven continent. It was also one of the 3 realm gates that had disappeared. However, it hadn't disappeared for a long time, so if he didn't find the wrong location, he should be able to easily sense some traces. Things were progressing smoothly. Yang Kai had already sensed the remnant aura of the realm gate in less than an incense stick's worth of time. He flew to a high altitude. Under the surge of the spatial law, he inserted his hands into the void, took a deep breath, and suddenly tore it open. As if a piece of cloth had been torn, a crack immediately appeared in the void, big enough for one person to enter. Yang Kai looked left and right for a moment. His figure flashed, and he plunged into the crack. Without waiting for his eyes to adapt to the new scenery, Yang Kai had already used the Nihility secret technique at the same time, banishing himself into the void. At the same time, he restrained his essence, energy and spirit, not revealing the slightest bit of aura. But soon, he discovered that he was a little too nervous. There wasn't any aura of living beings in this place. At least, there wasn't any within the range of his divine senses perception. Originally, he had guessed that if the great emperors of the Bright Moon continent had really fallen into the hands of the Eternal Heaven continent, then this place would definitely be heavily guarded. Who would have thought that it would turn out to be the scene before his eyes? Such a situation meant that either his guess was wrong, or the great emperors of the Bright Moon Empire had fallen into a deeper location, and the demon race had not set up any defenses here. However, no matter which possibility it was, since Yang Kai had already arrived at the Eternal Heaven continent, he had to find out what was going on. He turned around and glanced at the void that he had torn apart. It was healing at an extremely fast speed, and it would not take long for it to completely recover. Yang Kai didn't have the time to wait for it to close up again. After identifying the direction, he randomly chose a direction and flew out at a low altitude. He didn't dare to fly too high, so as to avoid being discovered. He also didn't dare to fly too fast. Even Yang Kai had to do his best to restrain his aura, so the speed of his investigation was naturally very slow. After flying for a full 2 hours, Yang Kai still hadn't seen even half a living person. This inevitably made him feel very strange. Where the hell did the demon race of the Eternal Heaven continent go? However, such a strange situation gave him some confidence in the Bright Moon Empire. Great emperors of the Bright Moon Empire had fallen into this place. A trapped beast would still fight. There was no safe place in this entire continent. The demon race naturally had to evacuate in advance. After another half an hour, Yang Kai finally found something. It wasn't the traces of the demon race, but the remnants of the battlefield after a great battle. The earth below was a mess. Mountains had collapsed, rivers had flowed in reverse, and traces of extremely destructive power could be felt everywhere. Gullies that were tens of thousands of meters deep and extended for an unknown number of kilometers were crisscrossed, as if they were scars between heaven and earth that would never heal. The chaotic power of the laws of nature was endlessly surging around these scars. Even though Yang Kai hadn't approached them, the waves of terrifying aura still made him tremble with fear. There were also cracks in the void that couldn't be closed up. They had arranged the entire heaven and earth into a net of slaughter. Anyone who dared to trespass would certainly die without a burial place. Those cracks in the void weren't as orderly as the ones torn by Yang Kai. Instead, they were irregular. Some were long, some were round, and some were like funnels. However, no matter which one it was, the surroundings were filled with the destructive power of the laws of nature. These laws were like the toxins on an abscess, preventing the heaven and earth from self-healing. The reason for this scene was naturally because an expert had taken action and shattered the void. And the only experts who could cause this effect, apart from the great emperors, were the demon saint. The great emperors of the Bright Moon Empire were here. Seeing the scene before his eyes, Yang Kai could finally confirm that his previous guess wasn't wrong. The Eternal Sky Continent was definitely the battlefield where the great emperors and the demon saint had clashed. Otherwise, the mountains and rivers wouldn't have undergone such shocking changes. And this place was very likely the place where the great emperors of the Bright Moon Empire first clashed with the demon saint. Yang Kai suddenly raised his head. His deep gaze seemed as if it could penetrate the hundreds of millions of kilometers of territory and see the deepest part of the battlefield. Without stopping, he flew inside in a flash. The further he went, the more chaotic the battlefield became. From time to time, a huge hole that seemed to lead straight to the ground would appear on the ground below. The whole earth seemed to have been turned over several times. It was truly barren. The more Yang Kai looked, the more shocked he became. He really didn't know what kind of enemies Bright Moon had faced back then. What kind of situation would she be in now, following the traces left behind by this incomparable battle? Yang Kai flew forward for a full day, but still couldn't find any trace of Bright Moon. Another day later, Yang Kai, who was flying forward, suddenly stopped. He promptly descended to a height of 3,000 meters, restrained his aura, and looked forward. He saw a large group of people and horses 100 kilometers ahead. They were crossing the mountains and ridges, crossing the chaotic battlefield, and moving forward in a winding manner. Yang Kai couldn't help but reveal a stunned expression. Although the distance was too far, and he couldn't see clearly, wasn't the number of demon race in front of him a bit too much? He roughly estimated that there were at least 1 million of them. Moreover, this was only the ones within his field of vision. Those demon race were almost lined up in a long line, as if they were on a pilgrimage somewhere. The ones outside his field of vision were probably even more innumerable. He had thought that the demon race of the Eternal Heaven Continent had retreated because of the battle between the great emperors and the demon saint, but now it seemed that this wasn't the case. The demon race hadn't retreated. Instead, they were converging in a certain place. Unable to understand the situation, Yang Kai slightly concealed his aura and cautiously approached that place. Fortunately, there didn't seem to be any powerful experts there. Even if there were some demon king, they wouldn't be able to discover Yang Kai's existence with their divine consciousness. After approaching a certain distance, Yang Kai was finally able to clearly see the situation of the demon race. Their numbers were indeed incomparably large. Previously, he had only seen about 1 million, but now it seemed that there were more than 1 million demon race in front of him. There was no end in sight. There were both young and old people in the demon race, and many of them seemed to be dragging their families along as they migrated to a certain place. However, the majority of the demon race had very strange expressions on their faces. They were solemn, stirring, and resolute. Although there were so many demon race troops moving forward, there was strangely not much noise. There were only a few demon kings in charge of supervising them, loudly urging and shouting. What exactly were they doing? Yang Kai, who was hiding in the dark, tightly knitted his brows. He couldn't figure it out no matter how much he thought about it. He vaguely felt that all of this should be related to Mingyu, but he couldn't figure out where the connection came from. The demon race couldn't possibly be relying on human wave tactics to kill a great emperors, right? If they really did that, the demon race in the Eternal Heaven continent wouldn't even be enough for him to kill. Since he couldn't figure it out, and didn't feel like thinking about it, Yang Kai glanced at the direction in which the countless demon race were moving, and also rushed forward in that direction. The further he flew, the more apprehensive Yang Kai became. The demon race troops seemed to be endless. Now it seemed that the demon race troops of the entire continent were all gathering in one place. After another day, a little change finally appeared in front of him. The sky was blood red, as if it had been drenched in blood. There was even a certain place that was emitting a fiendish and evil aura that soared to the sky. Even though he was very far away, Yang Kai could still smell the strong smell of blood coming from that place. His complexion couldn't help but change. He was at least 1,500 kilometers away from that place. If he could smell the smell of blood even at such a distance, how many people had died there? Even if the people who died were members of the demon race, they were still fresh lives. Could it be that the demon race really planned to use human wave tactics to exhaust Mingyu to death? This was too much of a joke. However, Yang Kai didn't dare to be the slightest bit careless now that he had reached this place. If Mingyu was really in the Eternal Heaven continent, then the place where he had fallen was definitely 1,500 kilometers away. There must be a demon saint guarding that place. His divine sense was indeed powerful, and no one had discovered his tracks along the way. However, it was still wishful thinking to get close to Mingyu under the surveillance of a demon saint. I have to think of a safer way. Yang Kai's mind was spinning rapidly as he cautiously approached Mingyu. However, he couldn't think of a feasible way no matter how much he thought about it. The gap in strength was an insurmountable chasm. If there was really a demon saint guarding this place, he would be exposed before he could even get close. How should he answer if he was asked later? Could he say that he was curious and came to take a look? What's more, the other party might directly kill him, and he wouldn't even bother to ask. After pondering for a while, Yang Kai could only place his attention on the demon race. That demon race team was approaching the bloody land. Mixing in with this huge team, and waiting for an opportunity to enter should be the best way. The only thing he needed to worry about was that the end of this team might not be some kind of dead end. After making up his mind, Yang Kai didn't delay. He dressed up a little, making himself look more like a demon race member. Only then did he approach the team of demon race. After observing the surroundings for a while, he found a suitable opportunity and directly entered the team with a flash. It was naturally impossible to directly teleport over like this. Although these demon race members were solemn and resolute, and had a silent appearance, they would definitely be suspicious if another person suddenly appeared in front of them. Therefore, Yang Kai teleported in a squatting position. Then he slowly got up and moved forward with the team. Chapter 3505. In this way, even if the nearby demon race felt something was strange, they would not be suspicious and would only think that he had just climbed up after falling down. Sure enough, when Yang Kai straightened up, the demon race behind him glanced at him, but did not ask anything. The team was huge and quiet. The demon kings rode their majestic demonic beasts and ran back and forth, urging the demon race to pick up their pace. Yang Kai, like the other demon race members, did not say a word. He lowered his head slightly and used the hair on his forehead as cover to quietly observe his surroundings. The further they went, the stronger the smell of blood became. The air was filled with a nauseating smell, and Yang Kai could faintly hear the sound of waves crashing. This made him puzzled. Could it be that there was an ocean in front of them? The distance of 1,000 li was not far, but it was not near either. Yang Kai walked with the team for more than half a day, but only halfway through the journey, his eyes were suddenly attracted by a huge blood-red pillar. This pillar was dark red in color, and its surface was engraved with extremely profound and complex patterns. Yang Kai only looked at it for a moment, but he felt his heart palpitate. It was as if countless demons and ghosts were rushing at him. It was as thick as dozens of people hugging it, and it was unknown how long it was, connecting the sky and the earth. Just the part that was protruding from the ground was at least several thousand zhang tall. Not to mention that a large part of it was buried in the ground. And the reason why this pillar was dark red was because there was blood surging on it. It was unknown where the blood came from, but it was gushing out from the complex patterns on its surface and slowly flowed down, as if it would never be completely drained. It was filled with an evil feeling, a formation base. Yang Kai's eyes narrowed. Although he didn't know what this pile was, it was definitely a spirit array base. In other words, there was a shocking spirit array here. And such a sensational spirit array definitely had more than just this pile of piles as its base. He raised his eyes to look into the distance, and he noticed that it was just as he'd expected. In the surroundings of the blood world, there was a pillar like this every 50 kilometers or so. It was like a nail that the gods had hammered down here with the intention of nailing something or someone to death here. And Yang Kai alone saw as many as 5 of these pillars, and he was afraid that there were even more that he did not see. Who else could such a shocking formation be used to deal with other than Mingyu? The demon saint of the demon territory had really spent a lot of money. Just to create such a formation base would have to consume the wealth of many continents. But now, they were using it to deal with a single person. But if they could really use this formation to kill one of the great emperors of the Star Realm, then any price would be worth it. Mingyu's situation. Yang Kai's heart sank. They were originally fighting an away battle, and they were even outnumbered. Now they were trapped by a great formation. It seemed that the demon territory was determined to kill Mingyu on the Eternal Heaven continent. And once Mingyu died, the gap between the top fighting power of the Star Realm and the demon territory would increase again. The Star Realm, which was already in a precarious situation, would be even worse. At that time, if all the demon saint from the demon territory came out, the Star Realm would definitely not be able to resist. The reason why the demon saint did not take action now was firstly, because they wanted to use this war to reduce the population of the demon race, and secondly because they were afraid of damaging the Star Realm too much. They already regarded the Star Realm as their possession, so how could they allow their future home to be destroyed because of a war? As his thoughts fluctuated, Yang Kai followed the team and kept moving forward. Finally, at a certain moment, he saw the source of the blood world. It was simply a sea of blood. It was boundless, and it was surrounded by the huge formation base he saw before. It was constantly rolling, and the sound of waves crashing was not an illusion. It was real. In the sea of blood, countless corpses and bones were rolling, resentful spirits were wailing, and baleful auras were soaring to the sky. Around the sea of blood, there were demon race members emitting dark red blood auras. They had solemn expressions on their faces, and their eyes were tightly closed. They were making different hand seals, and the demonic yuan in their bodies was surging. It was unknown what kind of secret technique they were using. These demon race members were all blood demons. In the demon territory, their control over blood was hard to compare with the other demon race members. These blood demons were separated from each other by hundreds of meters. Their strength varied, but they had all reached the level of the Demon King. Just as Yang Kai was observing, the demon race members who had walked to the edge of the sea of blood threw themselves into the boundless sea of blood without any hesitation. They melted without a sound and became a part of the sea of blood, increasing its power. Yang Kai suddenly understood. He finally understood how this huge sea of blood came to be, and why those demon race members were all gathered in one place. This was a blood sacrifice. A blood sacrifice for the demon race below the Demon King of the entire Eternal Heaven continent. Although Yang Kai did not know the principle behind it, such a huge scale of blood sacrifice was obviously aimed at Mingyu. Coupled with that extremely terrifying formation, this blood sacrifice would definitely play an unimaginable role. What was Mingyu's current situation? He had fallen into this place alone. He had fought against many demon saint before, so he definitely would not have come out unscathed. Even though he was a great emperor, he was bound to be injured. Now that he was trapped in this place by the demon race, using a blood sacrifice and a formation. He was afraid that things were not looking good for him. Yang Kai secretly clenched his fists, and his eyebrows were tightly knitted. One by one, the demon race members threw themselves into the sea of blood without any regard for their own safety. Most of them did not hesitate, although they were somewhat unwilling. It seemed that they did not have the courage to resist 4 hours later. It was almost Yang Kai's turn, but he still had not come up with a good plan. With his current strength, he would not be able to save Mingyu if his identity was exposed. Although he did not detect the aura of a demon saint, there were quite a few half-saint here. The demon race in front of him had all jumped into the sea of blood. Yang Kai had already passed through the sea of blood and reached an unknown depth. In the boundless sea of blood, there was a world filled with a soft white light. This world was less than 100 feet in radius, and in the center of this world, there was a man with a red face and white teeth. He was as gentle as jade, and was sitting there cross-legged. This man looked a bit too young, only around 17 or 18 years old. He seemed like an elegant youth. Behind the young man's head hung a waning moon. It was this waning moon that was exuding a bright moonlight, resisting the invasion of the sea of blood, and creating a pure land in this chaotic world. The bright moon great emperors. Yang Kai had seen him once before. Because he had returned the key to open the 5-colored treasure pagoda, he had been able to enter the 5-colored treasure pagoda to gain experience. When he left Star Soul Palace, the great emperors had deliberately come out and said a few words to him. But at that time, the great emperors did not reveal their identities, but Yang Kai was well aware. Now that they met again, Bright Moon's appearance had not changed at all, but his condition was far worse than before. His hair had grown white, and was as white as snow, and there was a huge wound on his lower left abdomen, through which Yang Kai could even see the squirming of his internal organs. Around the wound, pitch-black demonic chi was surging, constantly eroding his vitality. His snow-white clothes were covered with dried blood and dark red spots. Chapter 3506. Beside the boundless sea of blood, an imposing figure stood on a blood-colored pillar with his hands behind his back. His appearance was devilishly charming, and his fiery red hair fluttered in the wind. His scarlet beast-like eyes stared at the depths of the sea of blood, emitting a mystical light, as if he wanted to peer into the depths of the sea of blood and see Mingyu's condition. Although Mingyu was injured and trapped, she wasn't completely powerless. Even someone as powerful as him couldn't see what was going on inside. The gentle light emitted by the sea of blood blocked his vision and divine sense, making him feel slightly helpless. The great emperors of the Star Realm were indeed not to be trifled with. He had a slight advantage in the fight just now, but it didn't play any decisive role. The only thing that made him feel strange was why Mingyu suddenly attacked him. Was she fighting like a trapped beast? Great emperors wouldn't be so irrational. But what was the reason for her to do so? After thinking for a while, he couldn't figure it out. He couldn't help but slowly shake his head. Raising his gaze again, he stared at the boundless sea of blood and lightly snorted. Mingyu was injured. With him personally overseeing this place, and the 12 Citadel Great Demonic Formation, activated by the demon race of the entire Eternal Heaven continent, they could definitely keep the person in the sea of blood here forever. Even if he was a great emperor's, he wouldn't be able to do anything. With this thought, he waved his hand. The blood of the demon race that had died tragically nearby, due to the aftermath of his fight with Mingyu, gushed out, and gathered in the sea of blood like spirit snakes. When the bloody light flickered, the person's figure had already disappeared. Inside the sea of blood, in the pure land cast by the gentle light, Yang Kai absent-mindedly stared at Mingyu's abdomen with a face full of shock. Although he had already guessed that Mingyu's current condition was definitely not good, and that she was even injured, he didn't expect her injuries to be so serious. There was a huge hole in her lower left abdomen, and her flesh was completely gone. Although there was no blood flowing out, the terrifying demonic chi was still constantly corroding her body, making her look terrible. If it was an ordinary person, it would be fine, but Mingyu was one of the great emperors. Looking at her injuries, it could be seen how fierce the battle was. At this moment, there was still a trace of blood at the corner of Mingyu's mouth that hadn't dried up yet. There was no doubt that she suffered a small loss when she fought the demon saint just now. In terms of strength, she was on par with the demon saint, but the other party's advantage. And Mingyu was not at her peak, so it was natural that she couldn't win. Are you Yang? Just when Yang Kai was observing Bright Moon Great Emperor, Bright Moon suddenly asked with a look of surprise, as if he didn't expect to see someone from the star boundary here, let alone someone he knew. Calm. Yang Kai, greets Yang. Greetings. Great Emperors. Great Emperor. Mingyu was the protector of the Southern Territory, so Yang Kai naturally used his Southern Territory identity to greet her. Mingyu nodded slightly and asked suspiciously, "Why are you here?" Yang Kai quickly said, "This junior was entrusted by the Master of Heaven's Revelations to come to the Demon Territory to inquire about the whereabouts of the Master." After a pause he continued, "Many thanks to the Master for saving my life." At this time he also understood what had happened. He was certain that Mingyu had sensed him circulating his Emperor Qi after entering the Blood Sea, which was why she had suddenly taken action to disturb the perception of the great demon saint guarding this place. Then, she had opened a passage in the Blood Sea to lead him here. If it weren't for Mingyu's means, Yang Kai estimated that he would have been discovered by the demon saint, and it would have been difficult to predict his fate. Mingyu smiled gently. "You're a little too bold." Yang Kai said embarrassedly, "Fortunately my luck was good. If it wasn't Mingyu who discovered him first, but the demon saint." Yang Kai's scalp went numb just thinking about it. Mingyu nodded and said, "Heaven's Revelations old man called you here. Although I know he must have his reasons for calling you here, this king is still a little curious. How did you safely enter the territory that became the demon race and come here?" Yang Kai scratched his head and said, "This junior has betrayed the star boundary and defected to the demon territory. In the star boundary, this junior is now notorious, and everyone wants to beat him up." After saying so, he raised his eyes to look at Mingyu and found that not only was she not angry, but she also had a look of interest, so he quickly explained the reason. A moment later, Mingyu clicked her tongue in wonder. In other words, Yu Rumeng sneaked into the star boundary and hid by your side, but because her strength was greatly reduced, she couldn't force you and could only use gentle means to bring you to the demon territory. But you already saw through her intentions, so you beat her at her own game, and had Iron Blood cooperate with you to put on a show? Then you naturally betrayed the star boundary and came to the demon territory? Yang Kai nodded somewhat embarrassedly and said, "The general situation is like that." Mingyu couldn't help but praise, "Amazing." This was indeed an amazing achievement. It was basically impossible for a human to come to the demon territory, but Yang Kai did it. And the reason why the great emperors of Heaven's Revelations let him come to the demon territory was probably because he had grasped a trace of Heaven's will. Although he wasn't clear about the process, he definitely expected the final result. Otherwise, why didn't he find someone else but Yang Kai? "Master, you flatter me. It was just a chance encounter." Mingyu said, "Are you safe in the demon territory now?" Yang Kai smiled and said, "Master, don't worry, I'm very safe here. Yu Rumeng doesn't suspect me at all. And because of my space divine technique, the other demon saints seem to be very interested in me. They want to borrow my strength to repair some of the realm gates in the demon territory." "It's been hard on you." Mingyu sighed and pondered for a moment before saying, "But since the Heart Seal secret technique was used by a demon saint, it must be very powerful. You have to be careful." "This little one understands." Yang Kai nodded, thinking that the Heart Seal secret technique didn't restrict him in the slightest, but he couldn't say it out loud. After all, if he could break the secret technique used by a demon saint, it would be a bit sensational. Changing the topic, Yang Kai said, "Master, how are you now? I see that your injuries don't seem to be light." Mingyu smiled slightly and said, "It's not life-threatening, but the array outside is a bit troublesome." Yang Kai frowned and said, "Before I came, I saw that all the demon race on this continent were gathering here, and there were countless demon king-level blood demons presiding over the blood sacrifice. The boundless sea of blood, the blood cage, and the blood-red pillar that connects the sky and the earth. Master, do you know what the demon territory is trying to do? Mingyu chuckled. What else could they be trying to do? They just want to digest me. Digest? Yang Kai frowned and thought, you can't eat or drink. How can you digest me? Mingyu looked at him and said, why do you think they haven't killed me yet? Yang Kai thought for a moment and said, even a rabbit will bite when cornered, not to mention you are a great emperors. If they want to do anything to master, they will have to pay a terrible price. This is only one of the reasons. Mingyu smiled indifferently. Since you have successfully become the demon race's territory and gained the favor of a demon saint, you should know some information about the demon territory. What is Master referring to? The demon territory has more peak experts than the star realm. There are 12 demon saint. If they join forces, do you think I can resist them? Yang Kai thought for a moment and couldn't help but have a serious expression. He shook his head and said, I'm afraid not. It wasn't that he was looking down on Mingyu, but the difference in numbers was too great. If the 12 demon saint joined forces, Mingyu would die without a doubt. Thinking of this, Yang Kai was shocked. If it was really so simple, why would the demon territory waste time and energy to trap Mingyu here and sacrifice the demon race of the entire Eternal Sky Continent? Although the Eternal Sky Continent was shattered and the realm gate disappeared because of the battle between the great emperors and the demon saint, it wasn't to the extent of completely giving up. Why would the demon race of the entire continent be sacrificed? Indeed, I can't. Perhaps if I were to fight with my life on the line, I might be able to cause them some trouble, but I can forget about dragging anyone down with me. In other words, if they really wanted to kill me, I would have died long ago. Yang Kai said in astonishment. Don't tell me the demon territory wants you to become the demon race. Since they could kill her, but didn't, the demon territory's plan was definitely not small. If they could make Mingyu become the demon race, it would be equivalent to having a demon saint level expert. But was this possible? Mingyu said with a smile. How can I become the demon race? I just said that they don't want to kill me, because they want to digest me. Let the demon territory digest me. Yang Kai looked at her blankly. Mingyu explained. The so-called great emperors and demon saint are all existences recognized by the heaven and earth of their respective great worlds. They themselves represent a part of heaven and earth. Therefore, if I die, the star realm will be in turmoil, and many strange phenomena will occur. The reason why that old guy from Heaven's Revelations can be sure that I'm not dead is because of this. Yang Kai nodded. He knew about this. At your level of strength, you must have heard of the bottle of heaven and earth. Seeing Yang Kai nod, Mingyu continued. I and the other 9 are the 10 biggest stones in the bottle of heaven and earth in the star realm. The rest of the stones are innumerable. But if I, this stone, die in the demon territory, and be assimilated by the heaven and earth of the demon territory, then the bottle of heaven and earth in the demon territory will expand to its limit. There will be a chance to give birth to the 13th demon saint. Chapter 3507. With his explanation, Yang Kai finally understood what Mingyu meant by digesting. Killing him was only a means. The demon saint's ultimate goal was to digest the power of heaven and earth from the star world. Then what should we do? Yang Kai frowned. This matter involved the great emperors, the demon saint, and the structure of the 2 worlds. He couldn't think of any good ideas at the moment, so he could only hope that Mingyu had some ideas of her own. Unexpectedly, Mingyu slowly shook her head. There's nothing I can do. Not to mention that I'm currently injured. Even if I were completely unharmed, it would be difficult for me to escape from the demon territory. Hearing this, Yang Kai's heart sank. He asked seriously, Master, if you use all your strength, you won't be able to leave this place? Mingyu pointed outside and said with a smile. The demon saint guarding this place is called Shueli. He was born a blood demon, and is quite powerful. Before you came here, I tried many times, but with him guarding this place, I didn't have any opportunities to take advantage of. Shueli was born a blood demon, and now that countless demon race had been sacrificed here, and gathered into a boundless sea of blood, Shueli was like a fish in water in this environment. Mingyu had tried many times to escape, but all of them had ended in failure. In the end, she could only hide in a corner and preserve her strength. If she hadn't sensed Yang Kai's aura this time, she definitely wouldn't have wasted her energy to take the risk. Yang Kai blurted out, "Master, if I take you out?" Before he could finish, he shook his head and rejected. No. Although he was proficient in the laws of space and could teleport, it was still a bit of a fantasy to take Mingyu away under the watch of a demon saint. He was afraid that Xueli would catch up to him the moment he teleported away. He couldn't rely on the sealed world bead either. Naturally, he could put Bright Moon into the sealed world bead, but once Bright Moon disappeared, he wouldn't be able to fight against Xueli alone. He would only die even faster. Mingyu smiled faintly. This queen appreciates your kindness, but this queen is now at a dead end, so you don't have to waste your efforts. Being able to see you at the last moment can be considered fate between you and me. If one day you can return to the star boundary, tell Sun Air for me that this queen can no longer take care of her. Tell her to take care of herself. It's not the end yet. Why should Master be discouraged? Yang Kai's expression was solemn. Although he was comforting her, he knew that since Mingyu had said such words, it was obvious that she had foreseen his future. Although he wasn't like heaven's revelations who could see through the mysteries of the heavens, at his level of strength, he could faintly sense the will of the heavens. Before coming here, I met with junior sister Lan Sun. Junior sister told me to bring you back no matter what. If you give up at this time, how will I explain it to junior sister? Mingyu smiled. This queen isn't discouraged, it's just that a person's strength is limited. If this queen was still at her peak, she might still have a chance to escape from this place, but now. She lowered her head and looked at the wound on her waist and slowly shook her head. Her injuries were caused by the demon saint, so the consequences were great. If she could meditate for thousands of years, she might have a chance to recover. But at this moment, she was trapped in this place and had to resist the power of the blood sea and the great array. How could she spare the energy to heal her injuries? She had stayed here all this time only to accumulate strength and prepare for the final desperate struggle at the last moment. Yang Kai's eyes lit up as he excitedly asked, "If Master's injuries are completely healed, what are the chances of escaping from this place and returning to the star boundary?" Less than 10%. Yang Kai was stunned. Wasn't this chance a little too small? A 10% chance was the same as none at all. However, it wasn't strange when he thought about it. The blood sea had formed outside, and there was the support of the great array. Even if he completely recovered, he might not be able to defeat Xueli in a one-on-one battle. As long as Xueli could delay him for a few days, the other demon saint would definitely rush over from all over. At that time, with the power of the 12 demon saint against Mingyu alone, how could he escape? However, a chance was better than no chance at all. After hesitating and struggling for a moment, Yang Kai gritted his teeth and said, "I might be able to help Master recover." Mingyu looked at him in shock and frowned. "It's not that this queen doesn't want to believe you, but do you know what the situation is with this queen's injuries? Her injuries were not something that could be cured with pills. There were no pills in the world that were effective for such injuries. If she wanted to recover, she could only rely on herself." Yang Kai suddenly told her that he had a way to heal her. How could Mingyu dare believe him? She subconsciously felt that Yang Kai was a little too young and frivolous. However, young people all had this kind of problem. After all, the flaws could not obscure the beauty of the jade. Yang Kai shook his head. "I don't know how serious Master's injuries are, but as long as Master still has a breath left in you, this little one can help you recover." These words were a little too big, but Mingyu actually believed him a little. After all, no matter how she looked at it, a person who could successfully become the demon race's territory, without being suspected by the demon saint, definitely wouldn't have any problems with his head. Since Yang Kai dared to say this, he definitely had some confidence. "Then this queen would like to see how you can help me recover. Please wait a moment, Master." After Yang Kai finished speaking, he disappeared in a flash. A bead suddenly fell from where he was standing. Mingyu raised her eyebrows. She reached out with her hand, and caught the sealed world bead in her hand. After sensing it for a moment, a look of surprise appeared on her face. Although she wasn't proficient in space principles, she could still see some clues about this bead, and couldn't help but be a little moved. She was sure that this bead was definitely a treasure Yang Kai wouldn't show others. But now, he had easily exposed it to her, without the slightest bit of precaution. It could be seen how much trust he had in her. Inside the sealed world bead, in the medicine garden, Yang Kai stood in front of a small tree that was half the height of a person. It was crystal clear, and exuded a dark green light. His eyes were fixed on the only 3 green leaves left on the small tree, and he couldn't help but feel a little sad. Nodding to the 2 wood spirits, he left the small sealed world in a flash. Reappearing next to Mingyu, Mingyu reached out and handed the sealed world bead back to him, smiling slightly. Originally, I was thinking about how to safely send you out later, but since you have this thing, everything will be much more convenient. Yang Kai was stunned for a moment before quickly understanding the meaning of his words, but now was not the time to talk about it. Yang Kai took the sealed world bead and handed over the jade box in his hand. Master, this thing should help you recover in a short time. Mingyu looked at him with interest. Even someone as experienced and knowledgeable, as she couldn't figure out where Yang Kai's confidence came from. She took the jade box and was about to open it when Yang Kai suddenly said, Master, it's best to use some kind of barrier to prevent any aura from leaking out. After all, there is still a demon saint outside. Chapter 3508. This place had been isolated from the outside world by Mingyu's technique. Otherwise, Yang Kai wouldn't have been able to talk with such ease. Xueli would have discovered them long ago. At this time, Yang Kai still made this suggestion. This meant that the item in the jade box was no small matter. It was very likely that once the jade box was opened, it would have a great impact. Mingyu stared deeply at Yang Kai. When she nodded slightly, she formed a seal with one hand. The waning moon behind her suddenly shone with an even more dazzling radiance, illuminating this small pure land as bright as day. Only then did Mingyu gently open the jade box. A wisp of dark green light immediately entered her eyes. At the same time, an astonishing vitality surged out. Even though Mingyu was one of the great emperors, and had seen everything from the past to the present, she couldn't help but be slightly moved. She really couldn't figure out what it was that contained such an enormous amount of vitality. When he focused his gaze, he saw 3 emerald green tender leaves placed within the jade box. Every single leaf was only 3 inches long, and they were sparkling and translucent, as if they were carved from gems. The veins on the surface of the leaves were clear, and they emitted a faint fragrance. Smelling it actually made one's entire body feel comfortable. Her pupils shrank as she compared the item in front of her with the various information she had. After a while, Mingyu was moved and said, It's actually this item. He clearly recognized what it was. After all, he was one of the great emperors. Even if he hadn't seen anything that existed in this world before, he would have definitely seen it recorded in some ancient book. There was no reason for him not to recognize it. Yang Kai said, Can this item help Master recover? It can. Mingyu closed the jade box and looked at Yang Kai with a burning gaze. No wonder heaven's revelations allowed you to come to the demon territory. You have such good fortune that no ordinary person can compare to you. Because of the 5-colored treasure pagoda, he had investigated Yang Kai a little, and was clear about Yang Kai's background. A young man who came from a lower star territory could stir up a storm in just a few decades. This was enough to show that he had the potential to be a dragon among men. Now it seemed that this young man's luck was indeed good. He was actually able to obtain a treasure like the immortal tree. These 3 tender leaves were obviously just harvested. If Yang Kai didn't have the immortal tree's main body, where would he have harvested them? Hearing him say this, Yang Kai's face filled with joy. Since that's the case, Master, please quickly consume them. I'll stand guard for Master. Mingyu shook her head and laughed. There's no need to rush this matter. Even with this item, it won't be easy for me to recover. I'll need at least a year. To return. His task. And to be. To, to, to be, to. Mingyu smiled slightly. I'm not in a hurry, so why are you in a hurry? Yang Kai smiled awkwardly, not knowing how to respond. Mingyu's expression suddenly became solemn as she raised the jade box in her hand and said, This matter ends with me. The meaning of these words was obviously to tell Yang Kai that the news of him possessing the immortal tree would never spread. After all, this news was too shocking. Once it spread, it would bring Yang Kai some kind of trouble. It was rumored that if one refined the immortal tree, they would become immortal. This was something that even the great emperors yearned for. Yang Kai took out the immortal tree's leaves to heal her at this time. So how could Mingyu repay his kindness with ingratitude? If I didn't trust Master, I wouldn't have done this. Master's safety is of utmost importance to the star boundary, so I hope that Master can recover as soon as possible and escape from this sea of bitterness. Return to the star boundary and preside over the overall situation. At that time, this junior will be able to retire with success. Mingyu's smile was still the same as before as she hesitated for a while before saying, After a year, pay attention to the news here. If there are any changes, remember to come here. This king still has some things to tell you. Yang Kai stared at her and suddenly felt a sense of uneasiness. Mingyu seemed to be explaining her last words, as if she was certain that he would not be able to leave the demon territory alive. Opening his mouth, Yang Kai didn't know what to say. Comforting a great emperor was stupid, so at this time, it was best not to say anything and just hope that Mingyu would be blessed. You should go, Mingyu suddenly said. Yang Kai was silent for a moment before nodding. Master, take care. Mingyu smiled lightly. You too, in the demon territory, you must be careful, especially that Ru Meng. Don't trust her too much. She should have a way to get rid of that secret technique's suppression. This was already the second person to tell him this. Bai Limo's previous words could be explained as Mingyu trying to sow discord, but since Mingyu also said so, it meant that Ru Meng really was capable of such a thing. It was just that the time had not come yet. However, this was meaningless to Yang Kai. In any case, he had already escaped from this secret technique, but he still needed to be on guard. I'll keep that in mind. Yang Kai nodded, stared deeply at Mingyu for a moment before flashing into the mysterious bead world. Mingyu's previous words let him know what method Mingyu would use to safely send him out of this place. So at this time, there was no need to say anything, just leave everything to her. Before the sealed world bead could descend, it was caught by Mingyu, and with a flick of her sleeve, the crescent moon hanging behind her suddenly became round and full, releasing a soft white light that spread out in all directions. A violent power swept out, and the blood sea, which had not been calm for long, once again began to boil, the waves tumbling, and the aftermath shaking. Around the blood sea, the many blood demon kings all paled, as they madly pushed their demonic chi to protect themselves. But how could they resist the wrath of the great emperors? The blood sea's waves slammed down, instantly killing several dozen demon kings. Fortunately, the nearby half-saint reacted quickly and took action to suppress the situation, preventing it from worsening too much. But with the strength of these people, it was impossible to suppress a great emperor, even if this great emperor was injured. In just 3 breaths of time, the few half-saint kings showed signs of difficulty and panic. At this moment, Xue Li's imposing figure appeared once again on the blood-red pillar, his red hair fluttering in the wind as he raised his hand and slammed it down. It was as if an invisible mountain had pressed down from the sky, and the boiling sea of blood instantly calmed down without the slightest ripple. Only then did the group of half-saints and demon kings fiercely heave a sigh of relief, feeling as if they had escaped death for no reason. On the blood-red pillar, Xue Li's scarlet eyes flashed with doubt, his brow furrowed as he stared into the depths of the blood sea. 2 strange movements in one day was a bit unusual. Mingyu was not an idiot. Resisting so stubbornly would only waste his strength for no reason. Not only would it not be of any use, it would make his situation even more difficult. So what was the reason for all of this? Could it be that Mingyu had given up and was prepared to fight to the death? Just as he was thinking this, Xue Li's expression became serious again. This was because hundreds of bright rays of light suddenly shot out from the sea of blood that had just calmed down. The thick sea of blood was unable to stop the assault of these rays of light at all. Wherever the rays of light passed, the blood water was cleansed, revealing long and thick passages. And wherever these lights pointed, all the demon race would die upon contact. They did not have the slightest ability to resist. The white lights shot tens of thousands of kilometers, piercing through the heavens and the earth, before gradually disappearing. Including the unforeseen event just now, hundreds of demon kings had died. The other demon race were even more numerous. It was as easy as cutting vegetables. Shueli was furious and shouted, "Mingyu, you're courting death." With a shake of his arms, countless blood beasts instantly appeared in the blood sea. They were all grotesquely shaped, yet lifelike. Every one of them exuded a ferocious aura as they swam through the blood sea, pouncing towards the center of the Pure Land and suppressing the area of the Pure Land. Mingyu used his arts to resist and sneered at the same time. "If you Shueli really have the ability to kill me, then just use it. Who can stop you?" Shueli snorted coldly, ignoring the fact that he did not have the ability to kill Mingyu one-on-one. Even if he did, he would not do so. The goal of the demon saint was to have Mingyu digest within the demon territory. How could they kill him so easily? However, Mingyu had provoked him twice today and killed so many demon kings. This undoubtedly angered Shueli, so he did not hold back this time. Mingyu was not that easy to kill, but it was not a problem to add to his injuries. As long as he was completely beaten down, today's situation would not happen again. For a moment, separated by the boundless blood sea, the great emperors and the demon saint fought until the heavens fell and the earth cracked. Within the blood sea, the Pure Land filled with pure white light constantly expanded and shrunk, changing repeatedly. With Shueli personally taking action, the demon race was finally stabilized. More blood demon kings filled in the gaps, activating the blood sacrifice and assisting Shueli in his arts. This battle did not last for long, only half a day. Mingyu only stopped after half a day had passed. Shueli did not plan on pursuing him. After all, he did not really want to kill Mingyu here. Although he did not know how Mingyu's current situation was, Shueli was certain that he was definitely not having a good time. The most direct manifestation of this was that the pure white Pure Land in the blood sea had shrunk by half compared to half a day ago. The blood sea's area had also shrunk by almost a tenth. A tenth was at least the amount of blood sacrificed by billions of demon race members. In other words, this half a day of battle had caused the billions of demon race members to die for nothing. Shueli's expression was dark as he snorted coldly, "You're asking for trouble." In order to prevent Mingyu from causing any more trouble, he did not disappear this time. Instead, he stayed on the blood pillar for a few days, until he was certain that Mingyu had truly calmed down before leaving. Chapter 3509. Within the boundless sea of blood, Mingyu's face was pale, and he was bleeding from his 7 orifices. He looked terrible. Fighting with Shueli for half a day had caused his already injured body to be unable to bear the burden. If Yang Kai hadn't taken out that item earlier, he wouldn't have done this no matter what. After all, he had accumulated so much energy for this final battle. If he used it prematurely, all of his previous efforts would have been wasted. Fortunately, Yang Kai had brought him new hope. He opened the jade box and took out a leaf from the immortal tree. Twirling it a few times, he put it in his mouth, held it under his tongue, and silently circulated his profound arts. After a short while, the millions of pores on Mingyu's body bloomed with green light. Surging vitality flowed through his flesh and meridians, healing the hidden injuries in his body. The flesh and blood on the giant hole in his lower abdomen wriggled as pitch-black demonic chi spread out, gradually showing signs of healing. Feeling the powerful recovery ability of the immortal tree's leaf, even Mingyu couldn't help but reveal a joyful expression. While he was fighting fiercely with Shueli, somewhere tens of thousands of kilometers away, Yang Kai suddenly appeared with a serious expression. Hiding inside the sealed world bead and borrowing Mingyu's power to shoot the sealed world bead out had taken some risks. If Xueli had discovered the existence of the sealed world bead, Yang Kai would have been exposed. However, at that time, Xueli couldn't have taken care of everything, and Mingyu finally found a suitable opportunity to send the sealed world bead out. A distance of tens of thousands of kilometers couldn't hide from the perception of a demon saint's consciousness. After Yang Kai appeared from the sealed world bead, he turned his head to look back, and saw that the wind was blowing, and the clouds were rumbling. He knew that Mingyu was drawing Xueli's attention, so he didn't hesitate and rushed back in the direction he came from. There were no twists and turns along the way. 2 days later, Yang Kai returned to Bai Li Mo's territory, and met up with Tu Qiao Luo and the others. The following days were uneventful. Yang Kai had already achieved his goal of sneaking into the Eternal Heaven continent to search for Mingyu's whereabouts. Now he also knew her condition. What he needed to do now was to wait for a year to pass, and inquire about Mingyu's whereabouts. At that time, he would wait for an opportunity to take action. Therefore, he didn't bother to waste any more time. He was quite cooperative in dealing with the matter of the Realm Gate in Northern Li Mo's territory. He repaired what needed to be repaired, and maintained what needed to be maintained. Of course, if there was an opportunity to search for those missing continents, and let the sealed world bead devour them, he wouldn't waste this opportunity. This situation continued until 2 months later, when all the continents in Bai Li Mo's territory had been dealt with. Then, everyone returned home and set off for the proud snow continent. Yang Kai didn't really want to see Bai Li Mo again, but he couldn't refuse Bai Ye's invitation. Moreover, he was in her territory, so he should say goodbye to her before leaving. He hurriedly returned to the proud snow continent, and once again entered the proud snow ice palace under Bai Ye's lead. After waiting for a long time in the side hall, Bai Ye came back with an awkward expression. Yang Kai looked at him, a little confused. Bai Ye said, "Brother Yang, the Holy Master has something important to deal with. I'm afraid she won't have time to see you today." Yang Kai sneered in his heart. What kind of important matter could Bai Li Mo not have time to see him? She obviously didn't want to see him. It just so happened that he was too lazy to see this woman. Everyone could be said to have hit it off, so he cupped his hands and said, "In that case, this king will take his leave. Brother Bai Ye, please wait." Anyway, he had already done his part, so Bai Li Mo wouldn't have any excuse to blame him in the future. "Brother Yang, wait." Bai Ye hurriedly stopped him. "What else?" Yang Kai asked. Bai Ye said solemnly, "Brother Yang, I'm afraid you can't go back." Yang Kai narrowed his eyes. "What do you mean? Bai Li Mo couldn't be thinking of keeping him here forever, right? She was too naive. If she really did that, Yu Meng would definitely not agree to it." Bai Ye saw his expression and knew that he had misunderstood, but there was no other way. After all, Bai Li Mo also had a criminal record. Last time, she threw her into the cold ice prison and locked her up for many days. She couldn't be sure that she didn't have any resentment. She hurriedly explained, "It's like this. Yang Kai has the ability to repair the Realm Gate, and the other Holy Masters also need help, so Brother Yang has to go to the Red Flame Holy Master." Yang Kai's mouth twitched when he heard this. Although he already knew that he wouldn't have peace for a long time in the future, he didn't expect that the demon saint in the demon territory wouldn't even give him time to rest. How anxious were they? He didn't know why they were so anxious. In any case, if there were problems with the realm gates, there would have been problems long ago. After pondering for a moment, he said, "Then I have to go back to the Dream Holy Master and report to her about the situation here." Bai Ye smiled. "This is also Dream Holy Master's intention. Dream Holy Master's intention is that Brother Yang doesn't need to go back. First, he needs to deal with the realm gates in the Demon Saint's territory." Yang Kai was a little speechless when he heard this. He confirmed, "Dream Holy Master really said that?" Bai Ye nodded. "Dream Holy Master has a connection with my Holy Master." He reckoned that Bai Liemo wouldn't lie to him about this kind of thing. Since she said so, then it must be true. Yang Kai was annoyed. He was unknowingly sold out by Yu Meng. It seemed that his weight in her heart wasn't as heavy as he thought. She might really be able to resolve the suppression of the heart seal secret technique. It seemed that he really had to be careful of her in the future. He nodded with a calm face. Since it's the Holy Master's order, then this king will naturally obey. Baya stretched out her hand. I will send Brother Yang off. As if he was afraid that Yang Kai would refuse, he added. Brother Yang's safety can't be lost. Someone from the Red Flame Holy Master's side will come to hand over to me, so I have to come forward. Since he said so, Yang Kai could only agree. He thought to himself, why am I acting like a prisoner under house arrest? Hand over, leaving the proud snow continent, he rushed all the way to Red Flame's territory. Red Flame was a flame demon, and his territory bordered Bailey Mo's territory. After passing through a few continents, they arrived at the territory of another great demon saint. There was already a half-step saint waiting for them. Once the two sides met, the Balrog half-step saint turned around and left. This new half-step saint had a good attitude. They exchanged a few words and got to know each other. He also gave him a lot of information. Seeing that he had no intention of leaving, Yang Kai muttered in his heart. He couldn't have met another Baya, right? However, if the other party wanted to follow him, then there was nothing he could do. After all, this was his territory. Studying the information, planning the route, the same old routine. After 2 hours, they started work. That half-saint had indeed followed Yang Kai for a few days. Yang Kai was prepared to deal with him the same way he dealt with Boya. But who would have thought that after a few days, that half-saint would actually take the initiative to leave? Before leaving, that half-saint left Yang Kai with his own token, and told him to go to the holy city after this matter was over and return it to him. It turned out that the half-saint had followed Yang Kai for a few days just for the sake of novelty. After the novelty wore off, he naturally left. Chapter 35:10. Day after day, Yang Kai led his 10,000 troops across the various continents like a tinkerer, repairing the world gate in the demon territory. All the demon saint were extremely keen on this matter, so everywhere he went, a half-saint would appear and arrange everything for him. All he needed to do was to plan the route step by step, and repair the continents one by one. After a few demon saint territories, Yang Kai's small sealed world had already swallowed nearly 20 missing continents. The territory of the small sealed world had expanded to an incredible extent. Even Yang Kai had obtained several thousand myriad demon pills. The number of pills required for his embodiment to become a half-saint was more than enough, but it would take some time. One day, while his 10,000 troops were marching, Yang Kai suddenly stopped and looked up. Everyone behind him also hurriedly stopped and looked over curiously. Tu Qiaoyuo observed for a while, but after seeing nothing unusual, he could not help but ask in confusion, "Great King, what happened?" Yang Kai ignored him and just frowned as he stared at a certain spot in the void, his gaze deep, as if it could penetrate the barrier of space. "Oh, you can actually find me?" At the same time as this voice sounded, a figure suddenly appeared 1,000 meters away. This person was male, but he was somewhat different from the other demon race cultivators Yang Kai had seen so far. This man had a single horn on his forehead that was about the length of a finger and the thickness of 2 fingers. It was curved upwards, like the horn of a rhinoceros. This man was also quite burly and had a large waist. This appearance surprised Yang Kai a little. Although there were hundreds of races in the demon territory, and each race had different appearances and characteristics, this was the first time he had seen a guy with a horn on his forehead. Where did this guy come from? However, no matter what the other party's identity was, his strength was absolutely not to be underestimated. Just now, Yang Kai only felt that there was something wrong in front of him, but in fact, he did not find any trace of this guy. If he had not taken the initiative to expose himself, it would have taken him some more time to see through it. This guy is definitely a half-saint. Yang Kai was at a loss, but Tu Qiaoyuo, Yin, and the others were on guard. They pushed their demonic chi and looked at him vigilantly. Boya also instantly drew her bow and nocked an arrow. With a surge of her divine sense, she locked onto the half-saint in front of her with a solemn expression. Yang Kai looked around and felt more and more strange. What the hell are these guys doing? I've seen many half-saints these days, but I've never seen them so nervous. Could it be that this guy has a special background? Just as he was thinking about this, Boya secretly sent him a message. Be careful. This guy is from the 100 Spirit Continent. 100 Spirit Continent. Yang Kai frowned and thought for a moment. He remembered that he had seen the existence of this continent on the map. He nodded slightly and said, which demon saint's territory does the 100 Spirit Continent belong to? The 100 Spirit Continent was still some distance away from here. He would need to pass through at least 5 world gates to get there. At this time, a half-saint from the 100 Spirit Continent suddenly came to intercept him. Yang Kai could not help but think that the demon saint from the 100 Spirit Continent was too anxious. Anyway, he would definitely go and repair the world gate sooner or later. So there was no need to do this, right? Boya glanced at Yang Kai speechlessly and replied, the 100 Spirit Continent is not the territory of any demon saint. Yang Kai was shocked when he heard this. He turned his head and asked, what do you mean? Boya said with a serious expression, there are holy spirits in your astral realm, and there are also holy spirits in the demon territory. These holy spirits have a long history. Some of them were born before the demon territory existed. They are all very powerful and unwilling to be left behind. Although the holy sages have divided 90% of the demon territory, there is still a continent that is occupied by these holy spirits. It is not under the jurisdiction of any holy sages. That is the 100 Spirit Continent, and the master of the 100 Spirit Continent is an existence that is not inferior to the 12 holy sages. Yang Kai was surprised when he heard this. In the demon territory, there was a powerhouse comparable to the 12 demon saint, but it was not strange when he thought about it. There was Dragon Island in the astral realm. The Great Elder and Second Elder of the dragon race were also comparable to the Great Emperors. The growth of holy spirits was not restricted by the bottle of heaven and earth, because they had their own bloodline inheritance, and did not need the recognition of the power of heaven and earth. This guy should be a holy spirit. He must have come for you. There is also a problem with the realm gate in the 100 Spirit Continent. Yang Kai nodded slightly and said, then I guess the relationship between the master of the 100 Spirit Continent and the holy sages must not be very good. If they were on good terms, there would be no need for them to send someone to stop him here. They only needed to greet the other demon saint, and he would naturally go there. Boya could not help but roll her eyes. You are still in the mood to joke at a time like this. Do you want me to cry in front of you? Yang Kai sneered. It was just a half-saint. Although it was powerful, he did not need to be too afraid. Although his Dharmakaya was still some distance away from becoming a half-saint, if he joined forces with him, even if he could not defeat his opponent, he would still be able to fight back. The battle between him and Song Mo in the astral world was the best example. Song Mo was also a half-saint, but in the astral world, everyone called him a fake emperor. Boya continued. It is hard to explain the uniqueness of the 100 Spirit Continent in a few words, but you are right. The relationship between the master of this continent and the holy sages is not very good, but it is not to the extent of falling out. You are holy sage's dreams man, so he may not dare to do anything to you. Yang Kai glanced at her faintly, as he secretly cursed his bad luck. After coming to the demon domain, he had become a gigolo who lived off a woman, and had to borrow Yu Meng's prestige everywhere. While he and Boya were talking, the one-horned holy spirit opposite them did not disturb them. When their divine thoughts calmed down, he asked with a smile, are you that human? Yang Kai laughed. If there is no other human in the demon territory, then it would be me. Very good. Come with me. The one-horned holy spirit nodded, and said in an indisputable tone. Yang Kai immediately felt disgusted. If the one-horned holy spirit had spoken nicely, he might not have refused to go. After all, he had been to so many continents during this time, so it would not matter if he added the 100 Spirit Continent. However, the one-horned holy spirit continent made him feel a little repulsed. Helping you repair the realm gate is a favor, but not helping you is a duty. Why should I go with you? Since they were not on the same page, Yang Kai slowly shook his head and said, I am a prince under Holy Sage's dream. If you want to invite me, you will have to talk to Holy Sage's dream first. I can only go after Holy Sage's dream has spoken. Otherwise, I am powerless. Yang Kai was too lazy to talk to him anymore. He raised his hand and said, "If there is nothing else, please let me pass. I still have important matters to attend to, so I cannot delay for too long." The one-horned Holy Spirit naturally would not let him pass. He grinned at him and said, "I advise you to come with me obediently. The less resistance, the less pain. What do you think?" Yang Kai narrowed his eyes and said, "Are you saying that you want to start a war with me? I wonder if you can withstand Holy Sage's dream's anger?" The one-horned Holy Spirit chuckled. The name of Holy Sages can intimidate anyone, but it cannot intimidate the people of the 100-Spirit continent. This is a rebellion. No wonder the master of the 100-Spirit continent did not have a good relationship with the other demon saint. No demon saint would like such a disobedient group. Why don't the demon saint join forces and destroy this continent? Even the great emperors of the Bright Moon continent were forced into a corner by them. If the demon saint really joined forces, the 100-Spirit continent would have been destroyed long ago. But on second thought, Yang Kai understood why the 100-Spirit continent could survive in the cracks of the other continents. Not to mention that the master of the 100-Spirit continent was not inferior to a demon saint. Even the 12 demon saint would not really join forces. Even if 3 to 5 of them joined forces, they would not be able to eat this fat piece of meat. Instead, they might force the 100-Spirit continent to fight like a trapped beast. If this continent joined the other demon saint, it would only strengthen the strength of others. Of course, there were too many things involved. Yang Kai could only think of this at the moment. But no matter what, there must be a reason why the 100-Spirit continent could exist in the territory of the demons. The one-horned Holy Spirit did not seem to have any patience. After he finished speaking, he shouted, 10 breaths. Think about it carefully. Don't let me down." Yang Kai rolled his eyes and looked at him with his nostrils. This made the one-horned Holy Spirit's mouth twitch, but he was a man of his word. He said 10 breaths, so 10 breaths. When the time was up, rich devil chi rolled out from his body. He chuckled and said, "Since you don't want to cooperate, I can only use force." As he spoke, he reached out his hand to grab Yang Kai. As he moved, the origin energy of heaven and earth surged. A big hand formed by black devil chi leisurely took shape and grabbed at Yang Kai. Boya and the others' faces changed greatly. They all attacked together. Even Li Shiqing gritted her teeth and scattered a rain of petals. Each petal contained a terrifying killing power. However, although they had many people and were quite strong, they were still not strong enough to fight against a half-saint. All their attacks fell on the big hand of devil chi, but they only caused ripples and disappeared. Kai Yang was completely defenseless, his mouth curling into a sneer. He took the initiative to take a step forward, as if he was ready to die. The one-horned Holy Spirit was startled. He did not know what Yang Kai was doing. Although his attack did not mean to take Yang Kai's life, it was still somewhat powerful. If it really hit Yang Kai, with his cultivation level equivalent to a mid-tier demon king, there was no way he could survive. This time, he came to bring Yang Kai back to the 100-Spirit continent, not to kill him. If he really killed Yang Kai, it would definitely anger most demon saint. He could not bear the responsibility. As this thought flashed through his mind, he hurriedly withdrew some of his power. However, Yang Kai did not have any intention to resist. Instead, he opened his arms and looked like he was going to welcome death. Was this guy crazy? The one-horned divine spirit was dumbfounded. At this moment, it was too late for him to withdraw his hand. Just as the human race cultivator in front of him was about to be hit, a shocking aura suddenly filled the air, and a slender figure instantly appeared in front of Yang Kai, raised a white palm, and gently patted him. The pitch-black devil essence hand vanished in an instant. Looking at Xiao Wu standing in front of him, Yang Kai smiled. Chapter 35:11. If Yang Kai joined forces with the embodiment, he would be able to deal with the one-horned Holy Spirit for a while. But he wouldn't be able to gain any advantage. Instead, he would rather use the power of Yu Ru Meng's soul descent to deal with the one-horned Holy Spirit, saving him time and effort. When Boya and the others saw Xiao Wu flash in front of them, they couldn't help but sigh in relief. The soul descent of the Holy Senior had come again. Even a half-saint would have to temporarily avoid it. Unexpectedly, the one-horned Holy Spirit didn't retreat. Instead, he looked as if he had expected it. He gritted his teeth and said, "I knew it." As soon as he finished speaking, he threw a punch forward, and the power to shatter the void burst out. "You're courting death." Yu Rumeng's eyes turned cold. She raised her hand and clapped 3 times in a row. A terrifying and irresistible power swept forward, directly dissolving the one-horned Holy Spirit's attack. Not only that, but the aftermath of the attack also caused a big dent in his chest. The one-horned Holy Spirit opened his mouth and spat out blood. Even if it was only a wisp of the divine soul, the power of the demon saint wasn't something he could resist. A trace of horror flashed in the one-horned Holy Spirit's eyes. He quickly retreated. How could Yu Rumeng allow him to be presumptuous in front of her? If the master of the 100-spirit continent was here in person, she might be a little afraid. However, he was just a half-saint. If she killed him, so be it. The master of the 100-spirit continent couldn't settle accounts with her. In the end, it was their fault for being rude first. So, Yu Rumeng's figure swayed, and she directly chased after the one-horned Holy Spirit. She opened her mouth and let out a scream, which shook the Holy Spirit, who was frantically retreating. He almost fell from the sky. This was obviously a divine soul attack, and its power was not to be underestimated. The one-horned Holy Spirit suddenly bled from his 7 orifices. He looked miserable, but he grinned wildly and said, "You fell into my trap." Yu Rumeng's complexion changed. She seemed to have realized something. So, she quickly turned her head to look. She saw 2 silhouettes suddenly appear from the left and right sides of Yang Kai. Then these 2 silhouettes grabbed him from both sides. They didn't give him any opportunity to resist. They wrapped him up and ran away. In fact, they had covered a distance of 100 miles in the blink of an eye. Yu Rumeng was furious. She turned around and wanted to chase after him, but the single-horned Holy Spirit's hands moved quickly. He pressed his palms against the void. At the same time, the light of a formation lit up under Yu Rumeng's feet. It enveloped her and concealed her figure. Violent fluctuations of power surged out from the spirit array, but in less than 3 breaths of time, Yu Rumeng had already escaped. Her beautiful eyes were cold as she looked around, but she couldn't see the semi-saints of the 100-spirit continent. Taking advantage of the short time she was trapped by the spirit array, they had already run away. Boya, Tikiaoyuo, and the others didn't react until this time. They all looked at Yu Rumeng in horror. They knew that Saint Master Yu Rumeng must be furious at this moment. She had personally used her soul descent, but she had still let people kidnap Yang Kai. At this time, no one dared to speak, for fear that she would vent her anger on them. Yu Rumeng was indeed furious, and full of murderous intent. But now that things had come to this, she had no other choice. Her soul descent couldn't exert its full power, so it was impossible for her to kill the 3 half-saint. Fortunately, she also knew that they wouldn't do anything to Yang Kai. They must be here to repair the portal, but in this case, she had to go to the 100-spirit continent in person. Gritting her teeth secretly, Yu Rumeng turned to look at Tikiaoyuo and the others. "You all go back to Cloud Shadow first." Tikiaoyuo and the others naturally agreed. They couldn't intervene in this kind of matter. Without Yang Kai, it was meaningless for them to continue to stay here. They could only go back to Cloud Shadow and wait for news. On the other side, after Yu Rumeng finished speaking, she directly fell down. After all, Xiao Wu's strength was not very strong. Every time she suffered from her soul descent, she had to sleep for many days before she could recover. In the void, Yang Kai was speechless. He looked left and right, but all he saw were the same faces. He never thought that the 100-spirit continent would send 3 half-saint just to bring him back. He was a little fearless at first. He could join forces with his Dharmakaya, and Yu Rumeng could use her soul descent. A mere one-horned Holy Spirit couldn't do anything to him. But now, he was being held hostage and couldn't move. Even if he released his Dharmakaya, he couldn't defeat these 2. He had no choice but to be safe. Anyway, his life wasn't in danger. However, to Yang Kai's surprise, the 2 who were holding him hostage were twins. He didn't know what kind of Holy Spirit they were. But Yang Kai couldn't see any difference between them. They were very beautiful, and even had a bit of a foreign territory. They had high noses, bright big eyes, slender eyelashes, full red lips, and snow-white skin. But then again, at their level of strength, all of them were beautiful. Their figures couldn't be seen for the time being, but their breasts were very majestic. If you dare to look again, I'll dig your eyeballs out. The woman on the right suddenly glanced at Yang Kai coldly. Yang Kai immediately looked straight ahead. On the contrary, the woman on the left said to Yang Kai with a smile, "Don't be afraid. We don't mean you any harm. We just want to ask you to come with us." Yang Kai didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "How can you invite me like this? Fortunately, I'm brave. If I was a little timid, I would have been scared to death." The woman on the left said with a smile, "Your courage is indeed not small. Even in such a situation, your face doesn't change." Yang Kai thought to himself, "I was also like this when I faced Bailey Mo. So you two half-saint are nothing." Of course, he only dared to think about it in his heart. If he really said it out loud, he wouldn't have a good ending. So he laughed at himself and said, "Actually, I'm afraid, but I can only pretend to be calm." He paused for a moment, then said, May I ask how to address you two ladies?" No one answered. Yang Kai felt awkward, so he could only ask again, "Are you twins? Who is the elder sister, and who is the younger sister?" The woman on the right frowned and said, "Why are you talking so much? Do you believe that I won't pull out your tongue?" Yang Kai was speechless. This is a violent madwoman. The sister gritted her teeth and said, "There are also some shameless guys who sneak into the 100-spirit continent and kill the demon beasts here. Of course, once they were discovered, these guys wouldn't have a good ending. In the past, when there was no one guarding the realm gates, such things often happened. Some demon kings sneaked into the 100-spirit continent in groups of 3 or 5. After they succeeded, they immediately retreated. Because of this, the realm gates that led to the 100-spirit continent were now guarded by half-saint, and no outsiders were allowed to enter." Yang Kai frowned. "Why are you telling me this?" Strictly speaking, he was now just a captive. There was no need to explain the situation of the 100-spirit continent to him, right? The sister smiled. "I just think that you should know how pitiful the creatures of the 100-spirit continent are. And you have the ability to change all of this." "What ability do I have?" Yang Kai was speechless. In the eyes of the demon race, his biggest role was to repair and maintain the realm gates. This was also the reason why many demon saints favored him. "By the way, didn't you capture me to repair the realm gates?" The sister smiled mysteriously. "You'll know when the time comes." Yang Kai suddenly had a bad feeling. This trip was definitely not as simple as he thought. They didn't say anything along the way, as they crossed spiritual mountains and rivers. When a huge castle appeared in front of them, the twin sisters and the one-horned Holy Spirit looked excited. The castle covered a vast area, and was located in a mountain range. Between the mountains and ridges, there were strange beasts running. Outside the castle, on top of the walls, there were many strange-looking demonic beasts, each emitting a powerful aura. The castle was built very crudely, as if a giant beast was crouching on the ground. An ancient aura came from it. Even though it was Yang Kai's first time here, he could guess that this should be the place where the master of the 100-spirit continent lived. He couldn't help but feel a little nervous. If it was another demon saint, Yang Kai wouldn't be nervous, because he knew that he was useful to those demon saints and wouldn't be harmed. But the master of the 100-spirit continent was different. Who knew what he was planning? If he didn't like Yang Kai and killed him, who could he reason with? He landed in front of the castle. Before he entered, he felt a murderous aura. In the dark shadows, a huge figure gradually appeared, and every step it took made the ground tremble. A moment later, Yang Kai was able to clearly see what was approaching him. It was a huge demonic beast that looked like a lion. It was about 5 feet tall, and there was a golden mane in front of its chest. It was as smooth and shiny as silk, and there was a hot breath coming out of its huge nostrils. It looked very majestic. The giant lion looked down at Yang Kai and the others, and its golden eyes emitted a light of examination. The one-horned Holy Spirit and the twin sisters cupped their fists together. Master Lion. Yongkai blinked. Although he was sandwiched by the twin sisters, his cultivation wasn't sealed, so he could clearly feel the power of the giant lion. It was definitely a half-saint, but the one-horned Holy Spirit and the twin sisters still had to call him master, even though they were all half-saint. It was obvious that either the strength of the lion was higher than the three of them, or the Holy Spirit's ranking was higher. But no matter what, this guy called the lion was not someone he could resist. The lion nodded slightly and said in human language, "You're back?" The sister holding Yongkai said, "Fortunately, I didn't disappoint you." The lion looked at the one-horned Holy Spirit and asked coldly, "Who did it?" The one-horned Holy Spirit smiled bitterly. "Yurumeng's soul came. I'll teach her a lesson sooner or later." The lion snorted and glared at Yongkai fiercely, as if it wanted to put the blame on him. Yongkai was speechless, but it seemed that the people of the 100-spirit continent had a lot of resentment towards the demon race, especially towards the demon saint. In other places, the demon race didn't dare to call the saint by her name, let alone say something like teach her a lesson. "The master is inside. You can go in," the lion said and stepped aside. The two sisters nodded and walked in with Yongkai. The one-horned Holy Spirit didn't follow them in. Instead, it turned around and left the place, probably to find a place to heal. After passing through a long corridor, they suddenly entered a cold and dark hall. The two sisters stopped at the edge of the hall and waited quietly. When they arrived here, they finally let go of Yongkai. They probably thought that it would be difficult for Yongkai to escape here, even if he had the space divine technique. Yongkai focused his gaze and could vaguely make out a burly figure sitting cross-legged in the middle of the hall, motionless. However, the entire hall was filled with pitch-black demonic chi, like a thick layer of mist covering the ground. As this burly figure breathed, the demonic chi in the hall also tumbled and roiled. Yongkai frowned and stared at the dark demonic chi rolling under his feet. He couldn't hold back his curiosity and poked it forward. In the next moment, the rolling demonic chi suddenly converged towards the center and was absorbed by the burly figure. Yongkai's face darkened. Only now did he realize that the demonic chi was the result of the other party circulating their secret art. "What are you doing?" Behind him, the younger sister shouted in horror. Even the older sister's beautiful face paled. Never had they expected that Yongkai would be so bold as to disturb the master's cultivation. In the center of the cold and dark hall, two lightning-like rays of light flashed, crossing an arc and arriving in front of Yongkai in an instant. Only now did Yongkai see that the two rays of light were actually a pair of eyes. They seemed to be able to capture one's soul and make one shudder. Yongkai's heart trembled, and he lowered his head immediately, the expression on his face covered by the hair hanging over his forehead. "Greetings, master." The twin sisters hurriedly saluted. "He's that person?" A deep voice resounded in the hall, echoing back and forth. The older sister said, "Yes, master, he is that person." "Very good, raise your head." The last sentence was naturally directed at Yongkai. Yongkai's mouth twitched, but he had to raise his head. He did not look into the other party's eyes and slightly saluted. "Greetings, master. I am Changtian." Yongkai finally knew the name of the master of the 100-spirit continent. "I heard that you are proficient in the law of space, and can repair and maintain the realm gate?" Changtian asked. "Yes." Yongkai nodded honestly. It was meaningless to deny this. Changtian smiled. "It is said that the space divine technique is mysterious and complicated, but I have never had the chance to see it. Why don't you show it to me?" Yongkai frowned and raised his eyes to look at him. He looked directly into the other party's eyes and said with slight displeasure, "Master, you are joking. The space divine technique is not a sideshow. If master really wants to understand it, you can watch me repair the realm gate later." It wasn't until this moment that he started to seriously size up the master of the 100-spirit continent. Although he knew that he was tall and sturdy, he thought that he was a burly man with big arms and a round waist. However, after taking a closer look at him, he found that he was surprisingly good-looking. It was just that he was taller. His black hair cascaded freely over his shoulders, just like his desire for freedom. Chapter 35:13. Hearing Yang Kai's answer, the corners of Chang Tian's mouth curled up slightly as he glanced to the side. In the next moment, Yang Kai suddenly felt a sense of danger as a powerful force attacked him from the side. Caught off guard, Yang Kai couldn't react in time and could only instinctively activate his nihility secret technique to banish himself into the void. A slender hand passed through where Kai Yang was standing, hitting empty air. The person who had attacked raised her eyebrows, revealing a look of surprise. Yang Kai had taken this opportunity to teleport 1,000 meters away and looked back with a gloomy expression. He didn't try to use the space divine technique to escape. In front of a master comparable to a demon saint, doing so would only bring disgrace to himself. However, the other party's sneak attack made him secretly annoyed. The attacker was the younger of the twin sisters. Apparently, she had received a hint from Chang Tian and was using force to force him to use the space divine technique. Interesting. Chang Tian put his hands behind his back and turned his head to look at Yang Kai. With his eyesight, he naturally saw through all the mysteries just now and said with a faint smile, "But the space divine technique isn't just for defense, right? Don't you have any offensive means?" Whether it was the nihility secret technique or teleportation, they were all for self-defense. Obviously, they couldn't satisfy Chang Tian's curiosity. Yang Kai's face couldn't help but turn black when he heard this. He was a second-order Emperor Realm Master, and he was being attacked by a half-saint. What else could he do but protect himself? What he meant was that if he didn't satisfy him, he wouldn't give up. Sure enough, as soon as his voice fell, the little sister attacked again. She raised her hand slightly and pointed at Yang Kai from afar. Even though they were clearly separated by 1,000 meters, this finger made Yang Kai feel as if he was being crushed by a mountain. The blood and qi in his chest roiled, making it difficult for him to breathe. It made him feel as if he was nothing more than an ant. Looking at the younger sister's relaxed expression, it seemed that she hadn't used her full strength yet. All the bones in his body creaked. Yang Kai clenched his teeth and flicked his fingers. Numerous pitch-black crescent blades cut through the void and whistled towards his sister. They arrived in the blink of an eye. Not only did they shatter her attack, but they also turned the tables and took the initiative. This caused her beautiful eyes to shrink and reveal a look of surprise. At this point, since Chang Tian wanted to see the space divine technique, Yang Kai could only do as he wished. Seeing this, the big sister opposite him opened her mouth slightly, forming a circle. Those pitch-black crescent blades contained extremely terrifying might, and they were definitely not something a mid-ranked demon king could display. From this, it could be seen that the space divine technique was not only unique in terms of defense and survival, but it was also not lacking in offensive capabilities. Otherwise, it would be impossible for it to break through a half-saint's attack. In a moment of carelessness, she had underestimated the enemy and allowed several crescent blades to arrive in front of her. She couldn't help but have an unsightly look on her face. Her fingers suddenly turned into a palm and fiercely slapped down. Those several crescent blades seemed to have collided with an invisible wall in an instant, collapsing and dispersing. This wasn't over yet. Her figure suddenly swayed and broke through the barrier of 100 feet in an instant, arriving in front of Yang Kai. Her arm was so soft that it seemed to have no bones. Following one of Yang Kai's arms, her palm struck towards Yang Kai's chest. This palm seemed to be light and without any strength, but Yang Kai's complexion changed greatly as he felt a fatal threat. He cursed in his heart. This woman is crazy. Chang Tian only wanted to see the space divine technique, and I've already fulfilled his wish. You actually want to kill me? Although he knew that it was impossible for the opposite party to really kill him, the power contained in that palm couldn't be faked. God knows how much of her strength she would hold back at the last moment. In case there was a mistake in her estimation, he might be seriously injured by her. It could be said that he had fallen into a desperate situation when a half-saint got so close to him. However, Yang Kai's expression was unprecedentedly calm. The principles of space fluctuated around his body as he punched towards her. The speed of this punch wasn't fast, but it was powerful and heavy. A pitch-black vortex appeared in front of the fist out of thin air. It seemed as if an invisible beast had opened its mouth and was about to swallow everything in the world. Banish. I can't avoid it, so I can only use offense as a substitute for defense. But the space divine technique that I've mastered has been completely exposed. The younger sister, who had thought that victory was in her grasp, revealed a look of astonishment. Even though she was a half-saint, she could still feel the suction force coming from that black hole. She knew that once she was swallowed by this thing, she would be forever lost in the crevice of the void. She wouldn't be able to find the way out, and would eventually die of old age alone. Without the slightest hesitation, she immediately gave up on her original attack and hurriedly retreated. But before she retreated, she shot a demon chi from her palm and hit Yang Kai's chest. His figure floated down. His younger sister had already returned to her original position, as if she hadn't moved at all. But there was a bowl-sized hole in her dress at her lower abdomen. It was because she had been careless and brushed by that black hole. Her snow-white skin was exposed, and she felt a little cold. Fortunately, she wasn't injured. Otherwise, she would have lost a lot of face. Even so, this was an extremely inconceivable matter. One must know that her opponent was only equivalent to a mid-ranked demon king. If it had been another mid-ranked demon king, even if she hadn't used her full strength, they wouldn't have been able to touch even a strand of her hair, let alone damage her clothes. On the other side, Yang Kai's figure was also retreating, but he didn't take the initiative to do so. Instead, he was the one who had been beaten. It took him a while to regain his balance, but he still couldn't hold it in and spat out a mouthful of blood. Gritting his teeth, he glared at his younger sister angrily. Although the demon chi that his opponent had shot at him at the last moment didn't really hurt him, it had still caused him some minor injuries. The power of a half-saint was indeed not to be underestimated. Is that enough? Yang Kai wiped the corner of his mouth and turned to look at Chang Tian. As a second-order Emperor Realm Master, this was the limit of what he could do. If Chang Tian wanted to make things difficult for him, he really didn't know what to do. This was the first time he missed Ru Meng so much. That woman should have already set off for the 100-spirit continent, but he didn't know when she would arrive. But after taking a look, Yang Kai couldn't help but frown, because Chang Tian was staring at him at this moment, as if he had seen something amazing. Chang Tian's eyes were shining, and the corners of his mouth were curled into an obvious smile. Looking at each other, Yang Kai felt uneasy. Does the master of the 100-spirit continent have any special fetishes? If that's the case, it'll be troublesome. Even the twins could sense that something was off. It had been a long time since they had seen such an excited expression on their master's face. That's right, it was excitement. What in this world could make him so excited? Could it be the space divine technique that the human race used? Just as he was feeling suspicious, Chang Tian stretched out his hand, and a golden light flashed from Yang Kai's side and flew into Chang Tian's palm. The two sisters looked closely and found that what Chang Tian had summoned was none other than the blood that Yang Kai had just spat out. The blood was golden, but what caught the two sisters' attention was that this blood gave them a sense of déjà vu. Before they could figure it out, Chang Tian's expression became even more excited. He even laughed out loud in this empty and cold hall, echoing endlessly. With a flick of his hand, he flung the drop of golden blood away, then looked at Yang Kai with shining eyes and walked towards him. With one step, the whole hall suddenly buzzed and the world trembled. A terrifying pressure swept out in all directions. The twins' faces changed, and they had to urge their demonic chi to resist. When the second step fell, whether it was the twins or Yang Kai, they all felt their hearts contract fiercely, as if the foot had not stepped on the ground, but on their own hearts. Chang Tian walked forward step by step, his majestic aura bursting out in all directions. He was not fast, but he gave off an indescribable sense of oppression. His eyes were always fixed on Yang Kai with an expectant look. After the initial shock and uneasiness, Yang Kai gradually calmed down. Soon, he also looked at Chang Tian in surprise, and gradually realized that the other party's aura was indeed terrifying, but it also gave him a very familiar feeling. This was Dragon Force. The master of the 100-spirit continent was actually a dragon race. However, this dragon race was not the dragon race that he knew, but a dragon race that belonged to the demon territory. It was not surprising when he thought about it. The 100-spirit continent was the place where many divine spirits lived in the demon territory. Among the divine spirits, the dragon and the phoenix had always been the most respected. If there was anyone who was qualified to be the leader of all the spirits, it would be the dragon and the phoenix. Yang Kai understood that the other party must have noticed him when he was injured and spat out the dragon blood. That was why he took the initiative to test him. Otherwise, with Chang Tian's prestige, how could he bully the weak like this? After all, when he wanted to observe the space divine technique, he had to instruct others to do it for him. While he was lost in thought, Chang Tian had already walked a distance of several hundred feet. The dragon power that permeated the air was almost solid. Coupled with his powerful cultivation base, even the half-step Saint twins found it difficult to bear, and they both showed signs of difficulty. On the other hand, Yang Kai looked calm. Although he felt that the other party was powerful, he was not seriously affected and could still bear it. This made the two sisters who saw this scene show a look of disbelief, almost thinking that they were dreaming. Even they couldn't withstand this pressure, so how could Yang Kai withstand it? Seeing this, the smile on Chang Tian's face grew wider. His body shook, and suddenly his dragon force increased. The twins let out a low cry and half knelt on the ground, their faces pale. Yang Kai also felt that he could not bear it. He did have the power of the golden divine dragon's origin, but the fusion was not complete. He could not fully exert the full power of the golden divine dragon's origin. Naturally, he could not resist Chang Tian's power. His flesh and blood wriggled and his bones cracked. His face was red and his eyes were wide open. When he reached his limit, he gritted his teeth and shouted, "Dragon transformation!" There was a crackling sound, and in the dark and cold hall, a behemoth rapidly expanded. Chang Tian, who had been moving forward unhurriedly, finally stopped. His eyes kept moving upward as he raised his head, and he let out a low chuckle. The twins, who were half kneeling on the ground, also looked up in a daze. Chapter 35:14. On Dragon Island, Yang Kai had once faced the might of the two great elders of the dragon race head-on. However, at that time, he was in the Dragon Temple, blessed by the dragon souls of many ancestors, so it was not the same as the current situation. Chang Tian's strength was estimated to be at the level of the great elder and second elder of the dragon race at most, but without the blessing of the Dragon Temple, even if Yang Kai went all out, he would not be a match for Chang Tian. After all, the other party was equivalent to a demon saint, and without relying on the power of his bloodline, his cultivation alone was enough to make Yang Kai unable to make any waves. Using the dragon transformation secret technique was only to resist his dragon pressure, and this seemed to be the purpose of Chang Tian's pressure. Dragon horns protruded from both sides of his forehead, and his body was covered in golden dragon scales. His hands turned into dragon claws, the tips of which flashed with a cold light. Even the strongest defensive artifact in the world could not withstand a single blow from such a pair of dragon claws. Behind him, the dragon tail swayed, and his 300-meter-tall body stood tall. Fortunately, the construction of this hall was extremely grand, otherwise, it would not be able to accommodate Yang Kai's current size. Hot air spurted out of his nostrils, sweeping up a whistling wind in the hall. Looking down and meeting Chang Tian's eyes, Yang Kai saw the smile in his eyes and nodded gently. Sure enough. Yang Kai snorted lightly and opened his mouth to roar, the dragon's roar shaking the sky, causing the entire hall to tremble. Outside the castle, the many exotic beasts that were resting raised their heads in unison at this moment, looking into the castle in shock. The grand and loud sound that poured into their ears left them at a loss, not knowing what had happened inside the castle. Inside the hall, the dragon's breath filled the air, but Chang Tian, who bore the brunt of it, did not change his expression, facing this roar like a breeze. The twin sisters looked up in a daze, the older sister's red lips squirming, not making any sound, but from the shape of her mouth, she seemed to be saying the words divine spirit. Never in her wildest dreams would she have thought that the human she had kidnapped was actually a holy spirit. At the very least, he had the bloodline of a divine spirit, and it was the same bloodline as Master Chang Tian, the sister who had always been cold to Yang Kai, and wanted to cut off Yang Kai's tongue and gouge out his eyes, could not help but be moved at this moment. The echo of the dragon's roar gradually disappeared, and Yang Kai stared at Chang Tian standing in front of him vigilantly, and said in a deep voice, "Is this enough?" Chang Tian did not answer, but smiled faintly. "Your origin is very strong. You're even stronger than me." "What? This human source energy is actually stronger than Lord Chang Tian's?" The master of the 100-spirit continent was, and the two sisters two were members, but there were ranks, and the other. Master, Tian. Master time. Masters. Master. But now, such words had actually come out of Longevity Heaven's mouth. Did this not mean that one day in the future, this human could grow to Master Chang Tian's level? Or even surpass him? This future could be 1,000 years, or 10,000 years, or even 100,000 years, but it was still a hope. Compared to those holy spirits who could never reach Chang Tian's level in their entire lives, this was undoubtedly a great expectation and praise. Was this not a human who could repair the realm gate, because he was proficient in the law of space? How did he suddenly rise to the level where he was qualified to be on the same level as Master Chang Tian in the future? There's a dragon race in the territory of the devil. How surprising. Seeing that Chang Tian's attitude was good, Yang Kai was embarrassed to show a sour face. After all, Chang Tian's fist was bigger. He was just unhappy that Chang Tian kidnapped him without his consent and forced him to do so. Now, it seemed that Chang Tian did not have any bad intentions. Of course, this was after he realized that he had the bloodline of the dragon race. Chang Tian chuckled. Every big world has species born from the origin of the dragon race. The territory of the devil race is also a big world with its origin. Why can't there be a dragon race? Since you are from the star realm, then there should be a dragon race in the star realm? Yes, there is a place in the star realm called Dragon Island. Yang Kai replied casually. Dragon Island? Chang Tian's eyes flashed. The place where the dragon race lives. Yes. Yang Kai nodded. He seemed to be very interested in Dragon Island. Sure enough, Chang Tian quickly asked, "How many dragon race are there on Dragon Island?" Yang Kai replied, "Currently, there are only about 20 to 30 of them living on Dragon Island. These are all pureblood dragon race?" "Of course. So many." Chang Tian was absent-minded, but suddenly, he became excited. What are their attributes of the dragon race? What are their cultivation levels? Yang Kai could not help but be speechless. If it was someone else who asked him this, he could understand. Dragon Island was also a very mysterious place in the star realm. If it was not for his relationship with Zhu Qing, he would not have had any contact with Dragon Island until now. However, Chang Tian was the master of the 100-spirit continent, and his cultivation level was at the level of a demon saint. How could he be so curious? He frowned and said, "Are there not many dragon race in the 100-spirit continent?" Chang Tian said, "If you only count the pureblood dragon race, then I am the only one. If you count those with the dragon race bloodline, then there are many of them. There was only one pureblood dragon race." No wonder he was so surprised when he heard Yang Kai say that there were 20 to 30 pureblood dragon race on Dragon Island. Perhaps in his opinion, the pureblood dragon race should be very rare. And this had nothing to do with their powerful cultivation level. It was the environment in the demon territory that made him think this way. After a pause, Chang Tian waved at Yang Kai and said, "Return to your human form. I don't like to look up and talk to others." Yang Kai was speechless. He thought to himself, "You forced me to dragonize, and now you want me to return to my human form? Is it fun to torture people?" The twins were also speechless. They had never seen Master Chang Tian so amiable to an outsider. This was an eye-opener. If you are willing, I can take you as my godson. In the future, the Bailing continent will be yours. Yang Kai was stunned when he heard that. The twin sisters were also stunned. The three of them wondered if they had heard it wrong. If Chang Tian promised Yang Kai some other benefits in order to win him over, it would be understandable. After all, Yang Kai could be considered half of his clansmen and had great potential. As long as he had enough time to grow, there might be a second Chang Tian in the Bailing continent. When that time came, he would have more confidence in fighting against the other demon saint. However, taking Yang Kai as his godson was too shocking. If he really did that, Yang Kai and Chang Tian's honor would be completely tied together. Chang Tian would also train Yang Kai as the successor of the Bailing continent. As long as Yang Kai agreed, he would be second only to Chang Tian in the Bailing continent. Wealth and glory would be at his fingertips, and all the holy spirits would have to obey him. Chapter 35:15. Chang Tian's words were a little shocking, and Yang Kai did not know how to answer for a moment. From the bottom of his heart, he was naturally unwilling to agree. He had his own mission in the devil domain, and there would be a day when he would return to the star boundary. No matter how much Longevity Sky disliked those devil saints, he was still a member of the devil domain. There would be a day when the two of them would stand on opposite sides and become each other's enemy. How could he agree to such a suggestion? Therefore, his first reaction was that Chang Tian had lost his mind, or perhaps he had other motives. Otherwise, why would he say such a thing? However, after thinking about it, he felt that this was not the case. With Chang Tian's current cultivation and status, there was no need for him to use such a method to deceive him. Therefore, the only possibility was that Chang Tian was telling the truth, and Yang Kai could feel his sincerity. Did he value him so much just because he was half a clansman? Wasn't this a little too rash? They had only met for the first time, and they did not know each other well. Was it really good to be so sincere? The twin sisters on the other side obviously had the same thought, but they did not dare to casually persuade him, because of Chang Tian's prestige. Just as Yang Kai was thinking, Chang Tian suddenly said, "You don't have to rush to answer. You can think about it for a while before you answer me. During this time, you can walk around and see more. The 100 Spirit Continent is the home of all holy spirits, and you're still a holy spirit. Therefore, whether you agree or not, the 100 Spirit Continent will not be your enemy. However, if your holy spirit body is exposed, who knows what the other demon saint will think?" Yang Kai was shocked. Only now did he realize that the holy spirits were a very special group in the demon territory. It was different from the astral boundary, because of the 100 Spirit Continent and Chang Tian's existence. The holy spirits did not have a good relationship with the demon race. If his dragon race bloodline was exposed, he was afraid that it would lead to some bad things. Moreover, Yu Rumeng knew that he had the dragon race bloodline, and he had used the dragon form secret technique in front of her before. "Thank you, senior." In any case, Yang Kai was relieved that Chang Tian did not force him to answer immediately. Chang Tian chuckled and waved his hand. The twin sisters, who had been standing at the side, quickly came over and bowed in unison. "Master, what are your orders?" Chang Tian looked at Yang Kai and said, "Sister Lian will accompany you. If you need anything, just let them know." When the two sisters heard this, they were surprised. They didn't expect that Chang Tian would ask them to take care of Yang Kai. He really valued him. Otherwise, how could he ask two half-saint level experts to do this kind of thing? It seemed that the master really wanted to cultivate this human as his future successor. They didn't dare to neglect and agreed one after another. "Go ahead." Chang Tian waved his hand and closed his eyes after saying that. Yang Kai's heart was full of doubts, but it was not good for him to ask. He could only suppress his confusion, stand up and bow to Chang Tian, and then leave the cold and dark hall. Outside the corridor, he saw the huge lion again, its majestic eyes looking down at Yang Kai, and when it brushed past him, it said in a vigorous voice, "Boy, don't let the master down." It seemed that it knew what was going on inside, otherwise, it wouldn't have said such words. Yang Kai's footsteps paused for a moment, then he turned back and cupped his fists. but didn't make any statement and flew out with Sister Lien. Outside the castle was a mountain range. The mountains were undulating, jagged rocks of grotesque shapes, and waterfalls were everywhere. Yang Kai's face darkened, and he looked back, only to see the dark horse biting his clothes with its mouth, staring at him innocently with a pair of big eyes. Yang Kai looked up at it, then down at his torn clothes, and couldn't help but have the impulse to curse. The dark horse obviously knew that it had done something wrong, so it quickly let go of the clothes that was bitten, turned its head to the side, and snorted, as if it had nothing to do with it. Shoo! Yang Kai was shocked, and while making a sound, he pressed down with his hands to calm it down. He didn't expect that the beast not only ignored it, but also became more and more cheerful. He didn't know if it was pretending to be crazy or not. Damn it, I'm going to die because of you. Sure enough, after such a disturbance, Yang Kai heard a whoosh, and felt two more familiar breaths behind him. Needless to say, it was definitely the Sister Lien. Hey Wind Chasing, why are you here? The elder sister Black Lotus's voice came. What did you do to Wind Chasing? The younger sister White Lotus immediately asked. Yang Kai couldn't help but roll his eyes, too lazy to talk to her, but from her tone, this beast seemed to be very important, otherwise White Lotus wouldn't be so nervous. Seeing the Sister Lien appear, the dark horse called Wind Chasing no longer snorted, but quickly walked in front of them, lowering its head to rub against them. Black Lotus reached out and stroked its soft mane, smiled slightly and said, I know it's not your fault. Yang Kai didn't know what she knew, so he couldn't help but feel a little guilty. The next moment, Black Lotus turned her head and looked at Yang Kai with a smile, and said, Do you want to go out? Yang Kai coughed softly and said, Senior asked me to go out and have a look, and I'm going to enjoy the scenery of the Bailing continent. Anyway, Changtian had said it first, so he could just blame it on him. That's good. Black Lotus smiled meaningfully, as if she had seen through Yang Kai's heart, which was really annoying, and said, I can't guarantee other things, but the scenery of the Bailing continent is not comparable to other continents. I believe you will like it here after staying here for a long time. Who would like it here? Yang Kai snorted in his heart, and said, Do you want to go together? If you don't mind. Black Lotus smiled sweetly. I mind very much. Wind Chasing Wolf suddenly snorted again, and Black Lotus both looked at it in surprise. Black Lotus said with a strange expression, Are you sure? Wind Chasing Wolf turned around and walked toward Yang Kai. It came to him in a few steps, and then nudged him with its head. It had to be said that this guy was really strong. Yang Kai felt as if he had been hit by a boulder, and he almost suffered internal injuries. He quickly avoided it and looked at Black Lotus and said, What does it mean? This was a bit strange. Logically speaking, with Wind Chasing Wolf's strength, it should have been able to transform into a human form and gain sentience. However, it seemed that it had a natural defect. Although it could understand human language, it could not speak. This kind of thing was not new in the astral world, or in the territory of the devil. Many strange beasts were like this, and could only maintain their beast forms for their whole lives. Black Lotus said with a strange expression, Wind Chasing Wolf wants you to ride it, and it will show you the scenery of the 100-spirit continent. Yang Kai turned his head to look at Wind Chasing Wolf, and then at Black Lotus. He wanted to ask if it was a joke, but when he saw Black Lotus' serious expression, he immediately knew that it was not a joke. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry and said, That's not necessary. In any case, he was a second-order Emperor Realm Master who could fly, so there was no need for him to ride a mount. Well, even if he did look majestic while riding this guy, Yang Kai thought, Boy, don't be ungrateful. Bai Lian suddenly shouted at him coldly. Yang Kai shrunk his neck subconsciously, but when he remembered Chang Tian's previous instructions, he suddenly became tough again. He glared at Bai Lian and said, What are you shouting for? Do I owe you money or what? You've been so harsh since we met. Hey, you dare to glare at me? I'm talking about you. If you glare again, I'll dig your eyeballs out. Chapter 35:16. White Lotus was enraged by him. Her beautiful eyes were full of anger. When she was about to say something, Black Lotus suddenly pulled her. White Lotus immediately suppressed her anger. She gritted her teeth and turned her head to the side without saying a word. Changtian's words were quite effective. Yang Kai was secretly pleased. As he said, Bai Lian's attitude towards him was not good since they first met. She always wanted to do something to him, which really made him angry. Now that he was able to make her suffer, of course, he was using the tiger skin as a flag, but it was also a kind of victory. However, Yang Kai obviously did not intend to let her go so easily. Seeing her unconvinced look, he continued, "Apologize." Bai Lian suddenly turned her head and looked at him. Her eyes narrowed slightly, flashing a dangerous cold light. She pursed her lips and said, "What did you say?" Yang Kai slightly raised his head and pointed his chin at her. "I told you to apologize. Do you want to die?" The cold light in Bai Lian's eyes became brighter. "Okay, that's what you said." Yang Kai nodded. With his hands behind his back, he stepped forward. Black Lotus blocked him and frowned. "Where are you going?" Yang Kai looked at her and said, "Nothing. I'm going to find Master Changtian. Are you going to stop me?" Black Lotus was speechless. "Why do you want to find Master?" Yang Kai snorted. "I can't guarantee my safety in the 100 Spirit Continent. Some people want me to die. I can't stay here anymore. Of course, I'm going to say goodbye to Master and go back to my Cloud Shadow Continent." Black Lotus naturally understood what he meant. She sighed and said, "My little sister was a little careless just now. Don't be angry with her." Yang Kai curled his lips. "I'm angry with her? How do you see it?" "I can see it with my eyes closed." However, she could not ignore the situation. She could only say softly, "My little sister's temper is like this. She often offends people. If you want to apologize, I'll apologize to you on her behalf. Please don't be so calculative." Yang Kai sneered. "You didn't want me to die. Why are you apologizing?" "I'll apologize to whoever offends me." As he spoke, he glanced at Bai Lian from the corner of his eyes. He did not want to make things difficult for her. Firstly, he did want to teach her a lesson. Secondly, he wanted to see how effective Changtian's words were. If Bai Lian really apologized to him, then things would be interesting. "Hey, enough is enough." Black Lotus was also a little angry. Yang Kai's stubbornness made her look down on him. Even though White Lotus was wrong, strength was the only thing that mattered in this world. How could you make others bow their heads when you were not as strong as them? Yang Kai looked at her coldly. "Get out of the way. I can't stay here anymore." As he spoke, he bumped straight into Black Lotus. Even though she was much stronger than Yang Kai, Black Lotus still subconsciously leaned her body sideways. If she really bumped into Yang Kai, he would take advantage of her. She naturally refused to do such a thing. "Sorry." Suddenly, there was a mosquito-like voice behind him. Yang Kai paused his steps and turned his head to look back, only to see Bai Lian biting her lips angrily. Her fists clenched tightly as her tender body trembled slightly. She really apologized. Yang Kai was very surprised. Before he could recover from his shock, Bai Lian had already turned into a streak of white light and disappeared into the mountains. It seemed that she, a half-saint, was forced to apologize to Yang Kai, so she didn't have the face to stay. Black Lotus reached out as if she wanted to catch her, but in the end she failed. She sighed heavily and looked up at Yang Kai. "Are you satisfied now? After all, they were sisters." Her sister was forced to leave, so she was unhappy. "Oh, it's okay." Yang Kai laughed. But in this way, he believed Changtian's words. He turned around with his hands behind his back and looked at her. "Well, take me around," Black Lotus said coldly. "What about Zhui Feng? Why do I need him?" Yang Kai did not intend to ride him. This black horse did not seem to be a good thing. He had not even asked it for compensation for tearing his clothes. As soon as he said this, Kai Yang felt his clothes being bitten again. Looking back, it really was Zhui Feng. Using his mouth to bite his clothes, he continued to pull Kai Yang onto his body. Zhui Feng's posture was telling Kai Yang that he had to ride him no matter what. This guy was so strong that Yang Kai's clothes were torn apart in a few seconds. "That's enough." Yang Kai was furious. "Believe it or not, I will beat you." Zhui Feng was shocked when he saw that Zhui Feng was angry. He quickly let go of the tattered clothes and bowed his head. He was a little sad, and his eyes were full of grievances. Looking at him, Yang Kai could not bear it. After all, he was just an animal. Even if he had intelligence, he did not have a sound mind. Black Lotus suddenly chuckled and said, "Even if you beat us sisters, you will be fine in the Bailing continent. But if you dare to beat Zhui Feng, I promise you will not live to see tomorrow." Her words revealed a lot of information. Yang Kai could not help but turn to look at her. "What do you mean? Does this guy have a high status in the Bailing continent?" After a pause, he showed a frightened look. Could it be Senior Changtian's? That was not right. He did not feel the bloodline of the dragon race from Zhui Feng. If it was really Changtian's something, there must be traces of the dragon race bloodline. Black Lotus came forward and stroked Zhui Feng's mane. A look of reminiscence appeared on her face. "It is not what you think. Zhui Feng used to be Master's mount. He met the Master when he was young. He fought with the Master from the north to the south. They lived and died together for tens of thousands of years. In the early years, when the Master was not so strong, Zhui Feng saved his life many times. It could be said that without Zhui Feng, there would not be today's Master. At that time, my sister and I were just little demon marshals." She turned to look at Yang Kai and smiled. "Do you think it has a high status in the Bailing continent?" Hearing this, Yang Kai looked at Zhui Feng in surprise. This guy was Changtian's mount before? He really did not notice this. But after looking at it carefully, Yang Kai found that there were countless wounds on Zhui Feng's body. Obviously, they were the wounds left by countless battles of life and death. But in this case, Zhui Feng should have a high status in the Bailing continent. He had fought with Changtian for tens of thousands of years and saved Changtian's life many times. Even if he was now idle and useless, as long as he was alive, no one in the Bailing continent would dare to provoke him. Otherwise, they would have to bear Changtian's wrath. When Black Lotus said these things, Zhui Feng, who lowered his head because of Yang Kai's unkind attitude, couldn't help but raise his head. He snorted and his hooves, which were wrapped in gold, moved restlessly. His eyes were shining with a fierce light. A kind of murderous aura spread from his strong body. It seemed that Black Lotus's words reminded him of the flowing time great emperor, who accompanied Changtian to fight everywhere. This gave Yang Kai an illusion that as long as he rode on Zhui Feng, even if there were millions of soldiers in front of him, he could defeat them. For so many years, I have never seen Zhui Feng so close to anyone other than the Master. Black Lotus looked at Yang Kai incredulously. "You are the first one." Yang Kai said thoughtfully, "Because of my bloodline? Probably. Changtian was a magic dragon, and Yang Kai had the original power of the Golden Holy Dragon. They both had the bloodline of the dragon race. If Zhui Feng was close to Yang Kai because of this, it was reasonable. Otherwise, there was no reason for him to be so entangled." After a moment of silence, Yang Kai asked, "What kind of holy spirit is Zhui Feng?" Black Lotus shook his head and said, "I don't know. In the early years, I heard from the Master that Zhui Feng's bloodline was very messy. He didn't come from the same kind of holy spirit. Because of this reason, Zhui Feng has great strength, but it is difficult for him to turn into a human figure in this life. But it doesn't matter. For the Master, Zhui Feng is like his child and his only friend. Because he couldn't turn into a human figure, he could become Changtian's friend." Yang Kai nodded. He turned over and got on the horse's back. He reached out and patted Zhui Feng's neck. "Since you recognize me, please take me there." Suddenly feeling the weight on his body, Zhui Feng suddenly raised his head. He looked extremely excited and neighed to the sky. Black Lotus stared at this scene. The figure on the back of the tall horse vaguely overlapped with the invincible figure that galloped everywhere in the past. Black Lotus' thoughts were tumbling, and the sound of war seemed to echo in his ears. With a whoosh, Zhui Feng had already rushed out like lightning. His four hooves were burning with golden demon flames. He left a dazzling golden light in the void and cut through the sky. Yang Kai, who was sitting on the horse's back, was almost thrown off. He hurriedly cast a spell to protect his body from the oncoming wind. His eyes were wide open with an incredible look. Fast, very fast. Zhui Feng's speed was beyond his imagination. It was the fastest speed he had ever experienced. The Demon King and the Emperor Realm couldn't be compared with it at all. Even a half-saint couldn't catch up with it. Turning his head and looking back, he could only see a small black dot chasing after him in the distance. It should be Black Lotus, but it was getting farther and farther away. He estimated that it would disappear in a while. Yang Kai finally understood why Zhui Feng could save Changtian's life several times in the past. With such a terrifying speed, even a half-saint couldn't do anything to it. It was the biggest guarantee for escaping. Although Yang Kai's space divine ability was good at preserving his life, if someone interfered with the void, he wouldn't be able to teleport. However, Wind Chaser was different. Speed was its instinct, so to some extent, it had its own advantages and disadvantages compared to Yang Kai's teleportation. And this was not Zhui Feng's fastest speed. When he rushed out with Yang Kai, he was extremely excited. In the following time, he kept accelerating. Even though Yang Kai had the cultivation of the Emperor Realm, he could hardly see the surrounding scenery. He could only feel everything retreating from the corner of his eyes. Chapter 35:17. Like a bolt of lightning, like a flash of light, the spirit mountains and rivers beneath his feet rapidly receded. The wind blowing against his face was extremely strong. Such speed was something Yang Kai had never seen or heard of before. At a certain moment, when Wind-Chasing Wolf increased its speed to the extreme, it suddenly looked up to the sky and screamed continuously. There was obvious excitement in its voice. The entire Bailing continent was very large, at least on the map. But in front of Wind-Chasing Wolf's extreme speed, the continent was not so big. Wind-Chasing Wolf circled around a certain territory. After half a day, its speed gradually decreased, and it fell into a valley. After half a day of running, it did not feel tired at all. Instead, it was as if it had just done a warm-up. It was still full of energy. The valley was filled with lush greenery, exotic flowers and rare grasses, and a layer of hazy light enveloped this place, causing the valley to look like a wonderland, beautiful and magnificent. Black Lotus had been waiting here, as if she had known that Wind-Chasing Wolf would come here. They looked at each other with a trace of helplessness. She could not catch up with Wind-Chasing Wolf, so she could only wait here. Yang Kai turned over and patted Wind-Chasing Wolf's back. Wind-Chasing Wolf tilted its head and rubbed against him. "How is it?" Black Lotus walked over and asked with a smile. Yang Kai nodded gently. "It lives up to its reputation." He thought that it would be great if he could take Wind-Chasing Wolf away. This guy looked good as a mount, and its speed was so fast. It would be a great help in both traveling and fighting. But this idea was just in his mind. Even though Wind-Chasing Wolf was close to him, because of the blood of the dragon race, Yang Kai estimated that he could not take it away. At least he could not pass the test of Changtian. Looking around, Yang Kai asked suspiciously, "Where is this place?" In fact, he felt strange that Black Lotus had come here to wait in advance. Black Lotus said, "This is Wind-Chasing Wolf's territory." "I see." Just as they were talking, Wind-Chasing Wolf suddenly neighed. The next moment, a group of demonic flame horses ran over from all directions. They all had delicate features and soft and shiny manes, but they were generally a size smaller than Wind-Chasing Wolf. When they came close, they gathered around Wind-Chasing Wolf and rubbed their ears. Yang Kai looked carefully and found that these devil flame horses should be Wind-Chasing Wolf's companions. He could not help laughing. This guy was quite comfortable. After teasing Wind-Chasing Wolf for a while, Yang Kai and Black Lotus flew out again. He had no choice. He did not see anything on Wind-Chasing Wolf's back. He could only let Black Lotus lead him to walk around again. There were 4 gates in the entire 100-spirit continent. Yang Kai thought that Changtian sent him here to use his law of space to repair the gates. But after some investigation, he found that there was no problem with the gates. It could be said that they were very stable. This made him a little confused. Since there was no problem with the gates, why did Changtian send 3 half-saints to kidnap him here? But after some probing, he found that Black Lotus did not mean to stop him from leaving the 100-spirit continent. When he was close to the gates, he could take the opportunity to escape. But once he left the gates, he would be randomly transmitted to a neighboring continent. At that time, even if Black Lotus chased after him, he would not be able to catch him again. It could be seen that the 100-spirit continent did not mean any harm to him. Maybe at the beginning, but after Yang Kai exposed the origin of the dragon race, Changtian changed his mind. Senior Changtian, what do you want me to do? On the way back, Yang Kai asked. Black Lotus smiled and said, since the master did not tell you, I can't say more. If you really want to know, you may as well ask him directly. If the master is willing, he will tell you the whole story. Yang Kai could not help but roll his eyes. When they returned to the mountain where Sister Lotus lived, White Lotus was waiting in front of the palace. When she saw her sister and Yang Kai appear, she said, Yu Ru Meng is here. Black Lotus turned his head and looked at Yang Kai, the corners of his mouth curling up. He seems to value you quite a bit. It had only been a few days since they came back with Yang Kai, but Yu Ru Meng had already rushed over. This meant that when they returned, Yu Ru Meng had already left the Phantom Continent. Otherwise, it would be impossible for her to arrive at the 100-spirit continent so quickly. This female demon saint obviously valued Yang Kai very much. Where is she? Yang Kai looked at White Lotus and asked. She is talking to the master, but the master said that if you come back, he should send a message immediately. Yang Kai nodded, indicating that he had no objection. White Lotus immediately cast a spell to send a message. Not long after, a dazzling light was seen in the distance. When it came close, who else could it be but Yu Ru Meng? At this moment, she had a nervous look on her face. She directly landed beside Yang Kai and looked him up and down. Then she asked, Are you okay? I'm fine. Yang Kai smiled slightly. He could not help but feel a little complicated. The words of Bailey Mo and the great emperors of the bright moon echoed in his ears. He could ignore Bailey Mo's words, but the words of the great emperors of the bright moon made him have to be more careful. Yu Ru Meng's nervousness and concern were not fake. The restriction of the heart seal secret technique connected her to him. For her, he was the most important person in her life. Anyone who tried to hurt him was her enemy. Could such a woman really hide something from him? Could she really break the restriction of the heart seal secret technique at a critical moment? Yang Kai did not know. Perhaps the truth would only be revealed at that time. Now he could not help but be grateful for the strength of the soul-warming lotus. If it were not for this treasure, he would never be able to break free from the influence of the heart seal secret technique. Perhaps he would have made an irreparable mistake. It's good that you're fine. Yu Ru Meng snorted softly. Her cold eyes circled around the Lotus sisters, making the two sisters involuntarily nervous. If Yu Ru Meng really wanted to attack them here, they would not be able to resist. After all, they were also involved in the kidnapping of Yang Kai. At this time, it was reasonable for Yu Ru Meng to settle the score with them. Fortunately, Yu Ru Meng did not seem to have any intention of attacking. Perhaps she was afraid of Changtian. At this moment, Changtian's figure appeared and landed on the side. The Lotus sisters finally breathed a sigh of relief. With Changtian here, even if Yu Ru Meng was angry, she could not really attack them. They had escaped a disaster. I told you I didn't do anything to him, but you didn't believe me. Changtian crossed his hands with a faint smile on his face. Yu Ru Meng turned her head and said in a deep voice, What the hell are you doing? If you want to repair the gate, you just need to tell me. Do you think I will stop you? This was also what she could not understand. Yang Kai's ability was known throughout the demon territory. All the demon saint wanted to borrow his power, and she did not stop them. These days, Yang Kai had been to several demon saint territories. Who would have thought that he would be kidnapped by the people of the 100-spirit continent? Although the relationship between the 100-spirit continent and the entire demon territory was not very good, some superficial things still had to be maintained. Moreover, if there was really a problem with the gate of the 100-spirit continent, even if Changtian did not repair it himself, the other demon saint would ask Yang Kai to help repair it. After all, if the 100-spirit continent was lost, where would the demon territory find so many mounts with good bloodlines? Changtian smiled slightly. The gate is just a small matter. I am only interested in the boy himself. I am warning you. Don't you dare have any ideas about him. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude to you. Yu Rumeng stared at Chang Tian vigilantly. Chang Tian laughed and shook his head. Don't misunderstand. I don't want to do anything to him. I just heard that he has the blood of the dragon race. So I got him here, and wanted to adopt him. You can ask him, have I restricted his freedom these days? Yang Kai's expression changed when he heard this. Although there was no big problem with Chang Tian's words, the order of cause and effect was reversed. Chang Tian clearly found out that he had the blood of the dragon race after he came, and he did not hear about it before. In this way, he must have had another purpose in the beginning, but Yang Kai could not figure out what it was. Adopted son? On the other side, Yu Rumeng's face darkened. She was a demon saint. Although Chang Tian was not one of the 12 demon saints, his status and cultivation were comparable to Yu Rumeng. In other words, the two of them were on the same level. Yang Kai was her man. If Chang Tian really adopted Yang Kai as his adopted son, wouldn't Yu Rumeng be a junior for no reason? So she said with a pale face, in your dreams. She turned to look at Yang Kai and said, you didn't agree to it, did you? Yang Kai shook his head and whispered, I didn't ask you, how could I agree? He was secretly happy. Originally, he was still thinking about how to refuse Chang Tian's previous proposal, but now he had the best excuse. Yu Rumeng did not agree. This reason was simply impeccable. He estimated that Chang Tian would not mention the idea of an adopted son again in the future. After a pause he said, but Senior really has no malice towards me, and did not restrict my freedom these days. Hearing him say this, Yu Rumeng's face relaxed slightly. She nodded gently and said, that's for the best. She turned to look at Chang Tian and said, if you want to repair the realm gate, then don't waste time. You can do it now. After you're done, I will take him away from here. She was not at ease leaving Yang Kai here. Since she had come in person, she naturally had to take Yang Kai with her. This matter is not urgent. Chang Tian smiled slightly. I have another thing to discuss with you. Yu Rumeng frowned and said, what is it? Chang Tian stared straight at her, not saying a word, but his divine sense was quietly surging. Yu Rumeng was first vigilant, then stunned, and finally showed a shocked expression. She also urged her divine sense to communicate with Chang Tian. After a while, the two stopped talking. Yu Rumeng stood there motionless, lost in thought. Yang Kai and Sister Lian were confused. They did not know what they were talking about. But Yang Kai had a faint premonition that the content of their conversation was definitely related to him. Chapter 35:18. Well, if it's really as you say, it doesn't matter if I agree. A moment later, Yu Rumeng seemed to have made up her mind and stared at Chang Tian. You better not play any tricks. Chang Tian chuckled. This concerns the future of this continent. How can I be careless? He tilted his head and looked at Yu Rumeng. So it's settled then? Yu Rumeng snorted and did not comment, but Chang Tian knew that she had agreed to his proposal. After all, this matter would not only not cause her any loss, but would also benefit her a lot. Walking to Yang Kai's side, Yu Rumeng held his hand and said softly, come with me. Yang Kai obeyed and walked side by side with her. He did not fly out, but just strolled in the jungle, listening to the birds and insects around them. Behind them, the Lian sisters looked at the backs of the two in amazement. Although they knew that Yu Rumeng valued Yang Kai very much, they did not expect the relationship between the two to be so close. Putting aside status and cultivation, this man and woman were clearly each other's life partners. How could a devil saint be interested in a human, even if this human had the bloodline of a holy spirit? The jungle was dense, and the towering trees were as thick as several people's arms. Rustling sounds came from under their feet. Without outsiders, Yu Rumeng did not have the majesty of a saint in the demon territory. She leaned her head on Yang Kai's shoulder, like a little woman with a peaceful expression. She was not in a hurry to speak, and Yang Kai did not ask her either. This moment of peace brought a rare enjoyment. So good. Interlocking their fingers, Yu Meng's mouth curved into a smile. Yang Kai lowered his eyes to look at her, his mouth touching her soft hair, a sweet fragrance wafting through his nose. Yu Meng smiled. This is good. It would be even better if it could stay like this. Yang Kai raised his hand and pinched the tip of her delicate nose. If you want, we can put everything aside and find a place to live in seclusion. Yu Meng broke into laughter and said, We have already failed to live in seclusion once. Do you want to do it again? What happened last time didn't count. Yang Kai felt a little guilty. Just as he was about to say something, Yu Meng suddenly raised a finger and put it on his lips. She murmured, If one day I did something wrong to you, would you hate me? Is he here? Yang Kai's heart trembled as he recalled Bai Li Mo's provocation and Ming Yu's warning. With a smile on his face, he asked softly, For example? Yu Meng smiled faintly. There is no example, but if there is such a day. Yang Kai stopped, and Yu Meng had no choice but to stop as well. She looked at him in confusion, stretching out his hands and holding Yu Meng's shoulders. Yang Kai looked straight into those beautiful eyes that seemed capable of captivating one's soul and said slowly, No matter what you do, I will not blame you, let alone hate you. Yu Meng's pupils suddenly shrank, as if something had hammered her heart. Her beautiful eyes were filled with a dense light. Pursing her red lips, she tiptoed, held Yang Kai's cheeks with both hands, and took the initiative to move closer. The soft touch made Yang Kai feel as if he had fallen into a swamp and couldn't extricate himself. After a long time, Yu Meng suddenly grabbed Yang Kai's hand from her lower abdomen and pushed his chest fiercely. She glared at him and said, You're making trouble again. Her cheeks were rosy and tender. The female succubus demon saint bloomed with an indescribable temptation at this moment. Yang Kai only felt his throat dry up, and he felt as if he was about to lose his mind. He bit the tip of his tongue fiercely to sober up a lot. Yu Meng put her hand on her chest and panted violently a few times. She slowly calmed down, but the blush on her face didn't dissipate. She whispered, Wait a little longer, I'm not ready yet. This was the disadvantage of being weaker than others. You couldn't take the initiative at all. Even if you could make the other party dizzy with sweet words, you would still fall short at the last moment. Seeing Yang Kai's listless look, Yu Meng changed the topic and said, I have something I need your help with. If there's anything between us, just say it. Yu Meng pursed her lips and said with a smile, What if I ask you to do something difficult? Yang Kai shrugged. You know I can't refuse you. These words undoubtedly made her very happy. She tiptoed and kissed Yang Kai on the cheek like a dragonfly skimming the surface of the water. Was this a reward? Yang Kai's stomach was filled with dissatisfaction. Changtian wants you to stay in the 100-spirit continent, and I agree. Yang Kai frowned and said, Aren't you afraid that he will harm me? Yu Meng slowly shook her head. If he really wanted to harm you, he would have done it before I came here. There's no need to delay until now. What's more, you said before that this side doesn't seem to have any malice towards you. That's right. Yang Kai nodded and said, When I went out to investigate with Black Lotus before, I came near a realm gate. At that time, if I wanted to leave, she couldn't stop me at all. That's right. Yu Meng changed the topic and said with divine thought, Changtian doesn't have much time left. Yang Kai was shocked when he heard this and looked at Yu Meng in astonishment. How do you know? Yu Meng chuckled and said, This is not a secret among the demon saint. Everyone knows that he doesn't have much time left. In fact, according to his birth and current cultivation, this situation shouldn't have happened. However, in his early years, he fought everywhere and suffered many injuries, which damaged his vitality. Therefore, I guess that he can only live for another 2,000 or 3,000 years at most. 2,000 to 3,000 years, to some ordinary people, was the time of dozens of lifetimes added together. Even for cultivators, it was not a short period of time. But for a great demon saint who had a long lifespan, 2,000 to 3,000 years, was simply too short. What does this have to do with me staying in the 100-spirit continent? Yang Kai frowned. Yu Meng said, Didn't you hear that he intends to adopt you? Because of Changtian, the 100-spirit continent does not have a good relationship with us demon saint. Once he dies, the 100-spirit continent will be divided by the 12 demon saint. All the creatures living here will have a bleak future. Those with low cultivation may have a chance to live, but those who have reached the level of a demon king will either have their cultivation abolished or be directly executed. Otherwise, they will be branded with the divine soul brand and become slaves. Holy spirits are so proud. How can they be willing to be slaves? Therefore, the most likely situation is that if Changtian dies, the 100-spirit continent will definitely be bathed in blood. When that time comes, how many holy spirits will survive? Changtian has fought for the 100-spirit continent all his life. It was not easy for him to separate this continent from the territory ruled by a demon saint. He fought for a place for the holy spirits in the entire demon territory. How can he bear to see his life's work disappear like this? How can he bear to see the blood of the holy spirits he tried so hard to protect? So, he wants to adopt me and train me to be his successor. Yes, there is no suitable successor in the 100-spirit continent now. You have the bloodline of the dragon race. So naturally, you will be favored by Changtian. Maybe you can grow up in 2,000 or 3,000 years, but it is still hope. Did he tell you all this himself? Yang Kai frowned slightly. Changtian was one of the top masters in the demon territory. How could he confide in Yu Meng so easily? Yu Meng chuckled and said, I know what you are thinking. But he did say all this himself. Of course, there are some things that I know. Don't doubt his intentions. To him, you and I are one, and we share honor and disgrace. If he wants to work on you, he will not be able to avoid me. If he can persuade me not to interfere, it will also be good for him. All he wants is the stability of the 100-spirit continent and the safety of the holy spirits here. If you can really take over the 100-spirit continent in 2,000 or 3,000 years, you will be able to fulfill his wish. At that time, with me supporting you, the other demon saint will not make things difficult for you. Yang Kai nodded when he heard this. He understood why Yu Meng was so enthusiastic about this matter. Although it was Changtian's wish, it was also good for Yu Meng. Once Yang Kai took over the 100-spirit continent, she would basically have a share of the continent. Obtaining the control of the 100-spirit continent without bloodshed was something that the 12 demon saint had wanted to do for many years, but had not been able to do it. Then, what does he want me to do? Yang Kai asked. Yu Meng said. He asked someone to kidnap you in the beginning. He wanted you to seal all the realm gates. Yang Kai raised his eyebrows. Seal the realm gates? That's right. Yu Meng stroked the long hair beside her ear. Since you can repair the realm gates, you should be able to seal them. Yang Kai was silent for a moment, then nodded. It shouldn't be difficult. Although he had never done such a thing before, as long as he thought about it carefully, he should be able to seal the realm gates if there was no problem. This method was the opposite of repairing the realm gates, so it was not difficult in terms of technique. Once the realm gates of the 100-spirit continent are sealed, this continent will lose contact with the demon territory. The entire continent will become a safe haven for all the holy spirits. In this way, even if Changtian dies, we demon saint can't do anything to the holy spirits here. That's not necessarily true. Yang Kai shook his head slowly. There's no problem with the realm gates here. Although I can seal it, if I encounter an attack that's too powerful, the seal may be broken and the realm gates will reappear. If he really did that, he would only be shooting himself in the foot. Ordinary people might not be able to break the seal, but the demon saint's attack was extremely powerful. Yang Kai was not confident that his seal could block the demon saint's attack. Is that so? Yu Meng tilted her head and looked at him. It's very likely. After all, I haven't tried it. Of course, it's also possible that the realm gates and the seal will be broken together. As he spoke, Yang Kai was shocked. If Changtian's initial plan was to let him seal the realm gates, then he would definitely have no way to survive after sealing them. At the very least, he would not be able to leave the 100-spirit continent. Changtian would definitely not let a person who was proficient in the law of space stay outside. He secretly exclaimed that it was a close call. Fortunately, he had the bloodline of the dragon race in him. Otherwise, it would have been troublesome. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.